Chapter 214. Such a small punishment immediately made Mu Xian angry. You hit me there. Mu Xian blushed and almost went crazy. Pointing at him, she was speechless. The little witch's temper was exposed. There was no trace of her previous playful and cute expression. I'm teaching you a lesson. Playing tricks on others is fine, but if you want to play tricks on me, you have to pay the price. Yi Tianyun smiled. I'm going to kill you. Mu Xian screamed and rushed directly to his side. The aura of 7th-level spirit refinement realm completely broke out. At such a young age, her cultivation is not weak. She seemed to have lost her mind. She waved her palm and wanted to hit him heavily. Being molested by a man she met for the first time, it is difficult for her to calm down, especially when she has been treated as a princess. Being molested like this, it would be strange if she wasn't angry. Heavenly Pattern Pavilion does not allow personal fights. You have to think clearly. Yi Tianyun did not forget to remind her. Mu Xian remembered at this time. Gritting her teeth, she quickly retracted her palm. After a circle in the air, she landed next to Tianyun and stared at him bitterly. You lecher, you are not much older than me. How can you be so obscene? Obviously, she has regained her sanity. Personal fights can basically be used on anyone, including Mu Xian. Mu Xian is born eccentric. She often plays tricks on others. Fortunately, it's just a small matter. Because of her identity as the granddaughter of the Great Elder, no one dares to touch her at will. Even if they are played, they don't dare to be like Yi Tianyun, playing tricks on her and even spanking her ass. Although Mu Xian's ass is not a tiger's ass, the effect is much stronger than a tiger. I'm helping to teach you a lesson. Don't play tricks on others. Be a good girl, don't be so naughty. In fact, it should be said that you played tricks on me, so you have to pay the price. Yi Tianyun looked at her with interest. Others might be afraid of Mu Xian, but he is not. Very good. Mu Xian was so angry that her fingers trembled. She clenched her teeth and said, Just you wait, I will make you regret it, you lecher. With that, she stomped on the ground and ran into the Heavenly Soul Tower. She could not be bothered with Yi Tianyun anymore. Obviously, she had something to attend to. Otherwise, she would really be entangled with him. Yi Tianyun shook his head and didn't take it seriously at all. He turned around and went back. Very quickly, he returned to the Heavenly Rune Pavilion. By the time he returned, the news of the Heavenly Soul Tower had already spread like wildfire. More importantly, Yi Tianyun had defeated Jia Ping. This meant that his overall level was higher than Jia Ping's. Yi Tianyun looked up and found that his ranking had really changed. It had directly soared to the 24th place. He replaced Jia Ping's position. As for Jia Ping, he became 25th. This ranking change was quite fast. He had just returned, and the surrounding gazes converged on him in unison. There was surprise, jealousy, suspicion, and all sorts of other kinds of gazes in the gazes. Yi Tianyun didn't care at all. Just as they were about to leave, two people walked over menacingly in front of them. They looked extraordinary. According to the direction they were walking in, it was obvious that they were coming for them. Big brother. At this moment, Yang Yu hurried over. When she saw the two of them, there was some fear in her eyes. After running over, she tilted her head and whispered to Tianyun. They are Liang Bing, who is ranked 19th, and Yuan Xingyang, who is ranked 20th. They have a good relationship with the Feng family and the Jia family. Clearly, they are not here with good intentions. As expected, in a place full of competition like this, they come looking for trouble with the slightest mistake. Yi Tianyun saw their imposing manner and knew that they were here to find trouble with him. They must be friends or companions of Jia Ping's group. They were completely related. Yi Tianyun had just returned, and they came looking for him. They were extremely petty. However, this was normal. They belonged to different factions. It was normal that they didn't like him. They walked over and squinted at him for a moment. Then they looked at Yang Yu. Zhang Bin said angrily, Yo, I didn't expect you to become a follower. Now that you have a backer, you can be arrogant and dare to go against us? I don't know who was the one who was beaten to the point of begging for mercy and hiding. He didn't even dare to look us in the eye. Zhang Bin, don't say that. He has always been like this. He thinks that he has become more powerful because he found a backer. Liang Bing smiled indifferently and looked at Yi Tianyun. Only you would take someone like him in. Be careful that if he encounters any difficulties in the future, he will be the first to run and you will be abandoned. Bullshit. Yang Yu said angrily. How can I be such a person? I lost to you, but I never begged for mercy. You're talking nonsense. His tone was firm. It didn't seem like he was talking nonsense. It was obviously just slander. No matter what, you're all the same. You just arrived and already beat up 2 of our brothers. TSK, you're really arrogant. Do you think this is your home? Liang Bing sneered. If you want to survive here, don't be so arrogant. Otherwise, you won't even know when you die outside. This was already a threat. They were starting to be arrogant just because they had some status. Tianyun waved his hand and said indifferently, all this nonsense. Don't tell me you want a duel with me? If you want a duel, sure. You can start now. Good. Liang Bing's eyes burst with a murderous intent. He sneered. Then let's go to the duel arena now. This was the effect he needed. The assessment was about to begin. During the duel, if Yi Tianyun was injured or killed, then this assessment would have nothing to do with him. Liang Bing could then secure his ranking. However, Yi Tianyun had no intention of participating in any assessment. This had nothing to do with him. Boss, their cultivation is much stronger than Jia Ping's. Yang Yu was anxious. Liang Bing's cultivation was not low. They could clearly see that he was deliberately provoking them. They didn't expect that Yi Tianyun would really take the bait. This was a crucial period. If he was injured, he would not be able to participate in the next round of assessment. It's fine. I have my own plans. Yi Tianyun reached out and patted his shoulder. Whoever insults the people around me, no matter who it is, I will make them pay the price. This. Yang Yu was stunned. He was very touched. He gritted his teeth and said, Big brother, from now on, you are my big brother. Chapter 215. Huh, you still recognize him as your big brother? Liang Bing sneered. Later on, you can help carry your big brother back for treatment. Remember to take good care of your big brother. Don't let him run around. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died. The battle had not even begun, and Liang Bing was already talking nonsense, thinking that he would definitely win. My big brother won't lose. Yang Yu said coldly. Is that so? Won't you know later? Liang Bing snorted coldly. He turned around and walked towards the battle stage with Zhang Bin. Soon, they stood on the battle stage. As the news spread, many people quickly gathered to watch. When they saw the battle between Yi Tianyun and Liang Bing, they were all shocked. Wasn't this courting death? Liang Bing's cultivation was so high. This newcomer had just joined not long ago, and he already caused so much trouble? This Yi Tianyun is courting death. He actually dared to duel with Liang Bing. Liang Bing's divine runes level is not bad, but his true strength is still in martial arts. I heard that he fought because he wanted to help Yang Yu vent her anger. For Yang Yu, he's courting death? He's really courting death. They all shook their heads. They felt that this action was not worth it. It was also very irrational. This is a spar, you can't kill him. The guards at the side came over to watch. Sparring here was fine, but killing was absolutely not allowed. The Heavenly Rune Pavilion also didn't want their disciples to die frequently. Don't worry, I won't kill him. After all, he's from the same sect. It's just a spar. Let him know that being too arrogant here is not a good thing. Liang Bing sneered. He already had an idea in his heart. He indeed couldn't kill, but it didn't mean that he couldn't be heavy-handed. It would be good if he was left with half his life. He would ruthlessly teach Yi Tianyun a lesson. Tianyun just stood there, looking at him coldly. Are you ready? I've long been prepared, but since we're juniors, I'll let you have 3 moves first. Liang Bing stretched out 3 fingers. This was how confident he was in himself. Being able to deal with Feng Yulong didn't mean that he could deal with him. He was much stronger than Feng Yulong, so it was not a problem for Yi Tianyun to deal with Feng Yulong. As for Jia Ping, he had lost the bet. He believed that he had stood there on purpose and not because he couldn't block Yi Tianyun's attack. 3 moves? Yi Tianyun shook his head and stretched out his hand. He raised a finger and said in a deep voice, "I only need one move to defeat you." "Oh, you're really arrogant. In that case, I'll stand here and see how you defeat me in one move." Liang Bing was furious. He didn't expect this newcomer to be so arrogant. This was already a threat to his senior brothers. The people below all shook their heads, feeling that Yi Tianyun was too arrogant and not calm at all. Even if this kind of person didn't suffer here, he would definitely suffer in the future outside. After all, being too arrogant wasn't a good thing. Everything had to be learned to endure. Those who could think this way were those with lower backgrounds. They would rather be humiliated and endure it. Arrogant my ass. Brother Liang, teach him a lesson. Let them know how powerful we are. The rankings jumped so high, I wonder how they decided. That's right, teach him a lesson and let him know how powerful we are. Those who supported Liang Bing were all from the same faction. Seeing this newcomer, Tianyun, climb up and even push them down, they felt very embarrassed. As soon as they finished speaking, a boom was heard. An explosion erupted from the area where Yi Tianyun was standing. He erupted with a terrifying strength, causing the ground to sink. Under his crazy stomps, the ground began to tremble. This loud explosion caused everyone to be dumbfounded. They abruptly raised their heads to look at the phantom that rushed up, their eyes filled with horror. The domineering phantom was magnified to the extreme. Blue veins popped up on both of his legs. His strength seemed to have exploded to the extreme. Violent strength and air waves swept out in all directions. There weren't any fancy moves, just a collision that brought the strength of his physique to the limit. The sound of crazy stomps resounded in the surroundings. It felt like the ground was shaking. In the blink of an eye, the terrifying explosive force allowed Yi Tianyun to rush in front of Liang Bing. He didn't use any sneak attack. As soon as he arrived, he swung his leg heavily towards Liang Bing like a long whip. Liang Bing hurriedly reached out his hand to block. But as soon as he came into contact with this terrifying kick, he felt as if a heavy mountain was pressing down on him. The crazy vibration made a crack sound and the bones in his arm were actually shattered. His arms went limp, and he immediately loosened his grip. What followed was a terrifying kick that landed heavily on his chest. Liang Bing's body, which weighed more than 100 pounds, was kicked out like a kite. He was thrown high up in the air, and then with a loud bang he smashed into a distant house. No one knew if he was dead or alive. This scene made everyone dumbfounded. One kick sent Liang Bing flying, and no one knew if he was dead or alive. The terrifying strength made their hearts tremble. They fiercely sucked in a breath of cold air. What kind of strength was this? Wasn't it supposed to be weak? Brother Liang. Zhang Bin hurriedly ran over and ran into the collapsed house to rummage. When he moved Liang Bing out, he was already half dead. His chest had caved in. He wasn't dead, but he would have to lie in bed for at least a few months before he could get out of bed and move around. Liang Bing couldn't resist this terrifying kick at all. How could he resist such a strength that far surpassed him? This was also a power that was mixed with anger. Who could stop it? So powerful. Yang Yu sucked in a breath of cold air. Boss is too powerful. This strength is too terrifying. Even if it was a giant bear, I believe it would be kicked far away. It's really a one-hit kill. So ruthless. Deacon Huang, he used a killing move. Zhang Bin pointed at Yi Tianyun and complained angrily. Deacon Huang, who was at the side, came over to check. He shook his head and said, "No, it's a normal duel. Take it and recuperate." Fists and kicks had no eyes. The strength was controlled. It didn't kill Liang Bing, so it wasn't considered a killing move. Zhang Bin was anxious. He didn't expect Liang Bing to be defeated just like that, and Yi Tianyun wasn't injured at all. "Do you want to have a match with me?" Yi Tianyun looked down at him from the contest stage. His eyes were cold. Zhang Bin's heart trembled. Liang Bing was defeated. With his level, how could he be qualified to duel with Yi Tianyun? He would definitely end up like Liang Bing, sent flying with a kick. "What, you don't want to fight?" Yi Tianyun sneered. "If you want to step on his face, you have to be prepared to be stepped on." I will take Brother Liang to recuperate first. Next time I will beat you. Zhang Bin immediately used Liang Bing as an excuse to get rid of this challenge. Immediately he brought Liang Bing down to treat his injuries. However, anyone with a discerning eye could see that he was afraid. He just found a good excuse to get out of this situation. Other people who originally supported Liang Bing are now silent. They don't like Yi Tianyun, but they are also worse than Liang Bing. They didn't expect him to be defeated so easily. This newcomer is also so terrifying in terms of strength? Yi Tianyun snorted coldly and walked down the stage. Yang Yu rushed up and said excitedly, "Boss, you are so amazing, aren't you? The power you used just now is almost at the peak of spirit refinement realm. How did you cultivate?" "I broke through while practicing." Yi Tianyun smiled indifferently, but it made Yang Yu almost vomit blood. What kind of explanation is this? This was the result of him suppressing his cultivation. If he were to raise his cultivation, then Liang Bing would definitely die. They are just playing house here. They don't need to be too serious. If not for the sake of Heaven's top mansion, they would have already slapped them. Chapter 216. After the fight, Yi Tianyun's name spread throughout the entire Heaven's top mansion, and many people know about his situation. Not only is his spiritual force strong, but his cultivation is also not simple, and he's still young. A new monstrous genius is about to rise, which shocked many people. The most important thing is that such a monstrous genius actually came to Heaven's top mansion. Heaven's top mansion is still a third-grade faction, but it's already at the bottom of the third-grade faction, and it's possible that it will fall out of the third-grade faction at any time. Although the disciples who stayed here are outstanding, but compared to other factions, they are still far behind. Therefore, many people don't understand why Yi Tianyun chose to stay here. If it were them, they would have already joined another third-grade faction instead of staying here. This is the cruel reality. If a sect is declining, they will definitely not be a priority. If it weren't for the third-grade faction, there would be even fewer people here. After the competition, Yi Tianyun returned to his room, but not long after, he felt someone coming towards him. Immediately, someone knocked on the door, and he got up to open the door. When he opened the door, the person standing in front of him is none other than He Qianhan. "And it's you." He Qianhan's beautiful eyes widened when she saw Yi Tianyun. She didn't expect that the person in front of her is Yi Tianyun, a youth who is even stronger than her in divine inscription. "We meet again, Deacon He," Yi Tianyun said with a smile. Finally, Deacon He is back. He has been out for a long time. If she didn't come back, Yi Tianyun planned to leave. Without acquaintances, it's not easy to act in this place, and the restrictions are too big. It's not easy to go to different places, so it's basically impossible to get any information. "You're the one I recommended to be my disciple, the one who is in the limelight recently, the one with strong spiritual force and cultivation?" He Qianhan smiled bitterly. When she saw Yi Tianyun, she knew that she made a big mistake. "That's right. I gave this token to them, and they all said that it was a recommendation token for me to come and be their disciple." Tianyun took out the token and handed it over, saying, "Deacon He, did you give me the wrong token? Let them think that I'm here to join Heaven's top mansion." The token wasn't given to the wrong person. They were definitely mistaken. He Qianhan smiled bitterly and said, "I guess it's because I've recommended too many people. They thought that I was recommending someone else this time, so they didn't look carefully at the token. The most important thing is that you're too young. No one would think that you're my guest." What she said was true. The token was not wrong, but it was not very different from the token used to invite guests. As long as one did not look carefully, they would not be able to tell the difference. From the looks of it, Deacon He didn't ask me to take the test to become a disciple? Yi Tianyun smiled knowingly. He knew from the start that it was a mistake. He just wanted to take advantage of the situation and make the best of it. How is that possible? With your level, you can already be our deacon. Why do you still want to be a disciple? He Qianhan said awkwardly. "It's our fault this time. I'll take you to the main hall and officially welcome you." Yi Tianyun nodded and followed He Qianhan out. There's no point in staying here any longer. He has thoroughly understood Heavenly Rune Pavilion. Overall, it's average. As a very important sect, if it's average, it proves that heaven's top mansion is not good. Except for a few outstanding disciples, the rest can only be regarded as average. Of course, it's still a lot better than Heavenly Jade sect, but the atmosphere is not to his liking. Those who join are all from different families. If they don't unite, how can they become a good sect? He always felt that these families are the type to get a lot of money and then leave. They don't intend to treat heaven's top mansion sincerely. Thinking of Deacon Qian's betrayal, Yi Tianyun felt that heaven's top mansion is declining. Under He Qianhan's lead, Yi Tianyun didn't encounter any obstacles along the way. Some disciples saw He Qianhan and Yi Tianyun and showed envy. It's obvious that she brought him to a good place. Maybe she gave him some good treasures. The more potential a disciple had, the more resources they would be given. This was an unchanging principle. Soon, they walked out of Heavenly Rune Pavilion and went to the main hall. The main hall is located in the innermost part of Heaven's top mansion. It occupies the best location. Many elders and deacons stay in it to cultivate. Among them, the core disciples stay in it to cultivate. This group of core disciples, no matter what faction they are from, as long as they are good enough, they can enter. When they came to the main hall, Yi Tianyun looked up and saw the words, Heaven's Top Mansion. Just these 3 words alone released a strong pressure. Obviously, the person who wrote these 3 words is not an ordinary person. He estimated that it's the old ancestor of Heaven's Top Mansion. Heaven's Top Mansion has a spirit king Xian Tian, which proves that Heaven's Top Mansion has infinite potential. After entering, Yi Tianyun didn't see the luxurious decorations, but the antique atmosphere. It's not decorated with gold and silver, but a lot of simple and unadorned spirit wood. These spirit wood are not ordinary. Just as decoration, it's enough to increase the concentration of spiritual energy in this place. Therefore, as soon as he entered, he felt a comfortable feeling in his heart. The rich spiritual energy is an excellent nourishment for cultivators. Even an ordinary person would be able to prolong their lifespan under this long-term nourishment. Deacon He, this time you brought back a good seedling. He looks quite young. I heard that this time you recommended a disciple who is very good. After bringing back so many disciples, you finally got lucky this time? An old man's face was full of sarcasm. He didn't have the slightest intention to congratulate He Qianhan. Deacon Guan, this is the disciple I recommended before. But in fact, he's not the disciple I recommended. He's a guest of Heaven's Top Mansion. They misread the token I gave him and thought it was a recommendation token. He Qianhan didn't care about Deacon Guan's sarcasm. Instead, she explained. A distinguished guest of Heaven's Top Mansion? Deacon Guan was stunned for a moment, and then immediately looked at him from head to toe. Not a disciple, but a distinguished guest? Like I said, how could you possibly be so lucky to find such a talented disciple? That disciple must be from another force. May I know which 3rd grade force you are from? I'm not from a 3rd grade faction, I'm from a 2nd grade faction. Yi Tianyun replied lightly. 2nd grade faction? Deacon Guan was stunned. He Qianhan was also stunned. She didn't expect Yi Tianyun to be from a 2nd grade faction. I thought you're from a big faction. How can a 2nd grade faction be a distinguished guest? Deacon Guan shook his head. Deacon He, you're getting more and more unreliable. I'm starting to doubt if you're qualified to be a deacon. He Qianhan's face turned cold. This isn't the first time Deacon Guan went against her, and every time he did, he made her very unhappy. Isn't a distinguished guest from a 2nd grade faction? His divine rune grade is not low. He's very influential in Star Pavilion. Deacon He said solemnly. Divine rune grade is not low? Deacon Guan looked at Yi Tianyun up and down. His eyes were full of disdain. Is he a 2nd grade or early 3rd grade? In Heavenly Rune Pavilion, there are a lot of people like him. He can't even enter the top 5. No, he's a 4th grade divine rune master. He Qianhan corrected him. Chapter 217. When Deacon Guan heard that Yi Tianyun is a 4th grade divine rune master, he almost swallowed his own tongue. In the entire Heaven's Top Mansion, 4th grade divine rune masters are all deacons, and their number is extremely small. How is it possible for a 17 or 18-year-old boy to be a 4th grade divine rune master? he is a 4th grade divine rune master, how is it possible? Deacon Guan quickly recovered and pointed at Yi Tianyun with disbelief. Believe it or not, it has nothing to do with you. Deacon He made an inviting gesture, indicating Yi Tianyun to go inside. Young Master Yi, please come inside, I will introduce you to the other elders in the sect. He Qianhan didn't care about Deacon Guan anymore and walked inside with Yi Tianyun. Deacon Guan glared at He Qianhan angrily. He Qianhan thought for a moment and followed He Qianhan with a sneer. Young Master Yi, your talent is amazing, I don't know if you want to join our Heaven's Top Mansion? At this time, He Qianhan immediately wanted to recruit Yi Tianyun, especially when she heard that he is a 2nd grade faction, she was very happy. If it was a 3rd grade faction, she wouldn't be able to recruit him. But the 2nd grade faction is different, although Heaven's Top Mansion is at the bottom of the 3rd grade faction, it is at least a 3rd grade faction. If she can invite such a genius to join, it is equivalent to adding another genius to Heaven's Top Mansion. I don't have such a plan for the time being. Yi Tianyun politely refused. He came here to poach people, or to merge with Heaven's Top Mansion. They will be the big head, not Heaven's Top Mansion. If Heaven's Top Mansion is the main force, he might as well choose to be independent. Of course, Heaven's Top Mansion is also not willing to merge with them. After all, no matter how weak they are still 3rd grade faction. But in Yi Tianyun's opinion, if things continue like this, Heaven's Top Mansion will inevitably fall apart, and if they are not united, then there's nothing he can do. I see. He Qianhan showed a disappointed look. If Deacon He wants to join our Jade sect, I will welcome you with open arms. I am looking forward to Deacon He joining us. At this time, Yi Tianyun suddenly said, shocking He Qianhan. If a grade 2 faction were to invite a grade 3 faction to join them, unless the person invited was a fool, he or she would not be willing to join. Well, thank you for your kind intentions, young Master Yi, but I have no such plans. He Qianhan shook her head. The question was rather unexpected. Under He Qianhan's lead, they entered the inner main hall. The moment they entered, they saw some core disciples walking around inside. The cultivation of these core disciples was not simple, some of them even broke through to core condensation, which was equivalent to deacon level. Back then, Deacon He was a core disciple and only became a deacon later on. The biggest difference between core disciples and deacons was their authority. Deacons definitely had more authority. Among them, Yi Tianyun saw an acquaintance, it was Mu Xian. Mu Xian was talking to an old man. Yi Tianyun looked up and saw that the old man was at 5th level spirit core. Obviously, he was an elder. He saw Mu Xian, and Mu Xian also saw him. She was stunned for a moment, then immediately glared at him. It's you. Although her voice was not loud, everyone in the main hall looked at her. Then they saw Mu Xian's finger pointing at Yi Tianyun. Yes, it's me. Yi Tianyun smiled and said, Miss Xian, we meet again. Meet your head. Mu Xian glared at him. Xian, what's wrong, did he bully you? The elder next to her smiled warmly. This no. Mu Xian didn't dare to say it out loud. Did Yi Tianyun slap her ass? If not, then why did you speak so loudly to him? The great elder said, Girl, speak softly, don't be too barbaric. Who would dare to be your cultivation companion in the future? Grandpa, how can you say that to me? Mu Xian was very dissatisfied. She immediately said arrogantly, Those who want to be my cultivation companion are not even born yet. Yi Tianyun immediately laughed. She was really arrogant and full of character. However, with her amazing talent, there are relatively few people who are worthy of her, but not none. This little brother, Xian, seems to have pranked you. I hope you don't take it to heart, she was just fooling around. It can be seen that the great elder is still very protective of his granddaughter. Although on the surface he is teaching her a lesson, he is still very doting. It's okay, I don't care. Yi Tianyun smiled. Of course he doesn't care. Mu Xian immediately screamed like a kitten whose tail was stepped on. Cough cough. Great elder, this is young Master Yi who helped me in the Star Pavilion previously. He is also the champion of the Star Pavilion's internal competition. Due to some circumstances, he was mistakenly thought to be a disciple that I recommended. In fact, he is not the disciple that I recommended. He Qianhan stood out and helped Yi Tianyun to introduce. Champion of the Star Pavilion's internal competition? The great elder's eyes lit up. Mu Xian, who was at the side, was shocked by this news. She has heard about the Star Pavilion's matter. This is a relatively big matter, plus He Qianhan went to help, so she is relatively clear about the situation. To be able to get the first place, it means that without a 4th grade, it is really impossible to win. It seems that he is so young, but he is already a 4th grade Divine Rune Master. It is really unbelievable. That's just saying, who knows if it is true or not. We have not seen it. Just randomly pull someone over and say that he is the champion, I can even pull him over. At this time, Deacon Guan walked out and sneered, just like the disciple that Deacon he brought back, saying that he is very outstanding and can become an outstanding disciple. But in the end, his talent is very poor, and some of them can't even hold on and run away. I am wholeheartedly for the sect. Yi Qianhan felt very wronged. She wholeheartedly worked for Heaven's top mansion and found a good disciple. Wholeheartedly for the sect? Deacon Guan sneered. Wholeheartedly for the sect. Don't bring back so many garbage, it is a waste of resources. To be honest, if you are not the descendant of Spirit King Xiantian, you would have been removed from your position. Deacon Guan, that's enough. The great elder shouted to stop Deacon Guan's rudeness. Yi Tianyun was startled. This He Qianhan is the descendant of Spirit King Xiantian. No wonder she is so willing to do her best for Heaven's top mansion. This made him smell the scent of poaching. Great elder, did I say something wrong? She often brings back some so-called seedlings, but they basically run away. Deacon Guan said coldly. Do you know why the people that Deacon he brought back ran away? Tianyun interrupted at this time. It is because Heavenly Pattern Pavilion is too lousy. What kind of group of disciples are there? They try to suppress the newcomers, and if they don't obey orders, they will be kicked away. Let alone the newcomers, even I have to leave immediately. Who do you think you are? This is Heaven's top mansion's business. You have no right to interfere. Deacon Guan said coldly. Chapter 218. Spirit King Xiantian's successor. This news was quite shocking, and no one in the room expected it. He Qianhan looked at Yi Tianyun in shock. How did Spirit King Xiantian's successor suddenly appear out of nowhere? Yi Tianyun already felt that He Qianhan has been wronged enough. He can see that He Qianhan is very considerate of Heaven's top mansion. He really needs this kind of person to help him. Only then can he devote himself wholeheartedly to the Jade Sect and strengthen the Jade Sect. Instead, he is neglected here. If he didn't go to Heavenly Pattern Pavilion before, he wouldn't know the reason, but now he knows. If the other factions are the same, no wonder no one from Heaven's top mansion came here. It's just a bunch of rich kids messing around. How can they cultivate? Obviously, Heaven's top mansion, in order to strengthen their own forces, they give priority to those powerful families, but they don't know that it's equivalent to recruiting a group of bullies. Now that he knows that He Qianhan is the descendant of Spirit King Xiantian, he has even more reason to stand up. In theory, he is equivalent to Spirit King Xiantian's disciple. Heavenly Jade Sect relies on Heaven's immersing ancient ruins to survive. This kindness must be repaid. You're the successor of Spirit King Xiantian? What a joke. Do you think I'm the successor just because you say so? Deacon Guan sneered. Great elder, look who did Deacon he bring here. He even dares to pretend to be the successor of Spirit King Xiantian. Tell me, what is your purpose here? Don't tell me you want to plunder our Heaven's top mansion's resources? The next moment, Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed with cold light. He rushed forward and slapped Deacon Guan's face. A layer of light blue light appeared on his palm. Pa! Deacon Guan was slapped flying and directly hit the thick wall. The terrifying impact made the wall tremble. It's enough to show how strong this slap is. Under this slap, Deacon Guan's face is swollen. Many of his teeth fell off. The sudden slap stunned Deacon Guan. He immediately crawled up and pointed at Chu Yang while trembling. You actually dared to hit me? This is the Xiantian divine technique? A thin layer of crystal appeared on Yi Tianyun's palm. This was the effect of the Xiantian divine art. It could condense a layer of hard crystal on the surface of his body, allowing him to withstand a lot of attacks. Before this, Yi Tianyun hadn't used it much. It wasn't that this absolute art wasn't good, it was just that his strength was enough to kill everything in an instant. He didn't need to defend at all. When the others saw this effect, they immediately recognized that this was the Xian Tian divine art. This is Spirit King Xian Tian's secret art, only direct disciples can cultivate it. Even as the descendant of Spirit King Xian Tian, He Qianhan had never cultivated the Xian Tian divine art. Even Heaven's top mansion didn't have the complete version of Xian Tian divine art, so when they saw it, they were shocked and immediately believed that it was the real Xian Tian divine art. Yes, this is the Xian Tian divine art. How dare you accuse me of pretending to be the descendant of Spirit King Xian Tian and slander me? Tianyun said coldly. You really are the descendant of our ancestor. He Qianhan covered his mouth in surprise. Yes, I am the descendant of Spirit King Xian Tian. Yi Tianyun nodded. Mu Xian'er was stunned. This young man is not much older than her, but he is the descendant of Spirit King Xian Tian? Moreover, she heard that he is a 4th-grade divine rune master. Isn't he more powerful than her? This is really the Xian Tian divine art. This is great. The pain on Deacon Guan's face seemed to have disappeared. He hurriedly stood up and said, quickly hand over the Xian Tian divine art. This is the treasure of our heaven's top mansion. Yes, this Xian Tian divine art is the treasure of our heaven's top mansion. Please hand over the Xian Tian divine art. At this time, it was not the great elder who spoke, but another old man who came out. His cultivation was at the 4th level of Spirit Core stage. After the old man came out, another old man came out. His cultivation was also at the 4th level of Spirit Core stage. Obviously, he was also an elder-level figure. They looked at Yi Tianyun as if they saw a treasure. Their eyes were shining, and there was a bit of greed in the depth of their eyes. Second elder, third elder, you've come out. Enforcer Guan eagerly ran over as if he'd found a backer. I don't know where you came from, but the Xian Tian divine art is the treasure of our heaven's top mansion. Please hand it over. The second elder looked at him and said. Yi Tianyun's eyes were cold. Obviously these people heard that he has the Xian Tian divine art, so they want him to hand it over. He didn't expect that Spirit King Xian Tian didn't pass the Xian Tian divine art to him, so he must have his reasons. Second elder, my ancestor's words were not like this. He only passed it to his own disciple, not to the sect. Yi Tianyun didn't speak, but He Qianhan intervened. Her voice was sonorous. She was defending Yi Tianyun. Yes, we still have to follow Spirit King Xian Tian's words. The great elder frowned. He was not happy with the second elder's words. Great elder, that's true, but the problem is he really an inheritor? Maybe he got the Xian Tian art from somewhere and casually practiced it, and then he became an elder in heaven's top mansion? Second elder coldly snorted. Oh, if you have the ability, why don't you try to practice it? Yi Tianyun interrupted. The second elder was simply a joke. He even said such words. It was obvious that he wanted to forcibly take the Xian Tian divine art as an excuse. Our ancestor will not casually give away the Xian Tian divine art. As long as someone practices the Xian Tian divine art, no matter who he is, he must be recognized as the successor. As long as he meets the conditions, he can become an elder of heaven's top mansion. Yi Qianhan said coldly. She completely implemented her ancestor's last wish. No matter who Yi Tianyun is, she must recognize him as the successor. Deacon He, I know what you are thinking, but we will not recognize him. Especially now that heaven's top mansion is in a critical situation. If you don't hand over the Xian Tian divine art, don't even think about leaving here. The second elder stepped forward. His spirit core aura burst out and swept the surrounding. The third elder also stepped aside. His spirit core aura also burst out, completely blocking the area. Since persuasion doesn't work, he can only use force. What do you want to do? Yi Qianhan stood in front of Yi Tianyun, without flinching. You are violating our ancestors' last wish. No, we are doing this for the sake of heaven's top mansion, but also for the sake of Spirit King Xian Tian. Spirit King Xian Tian went somewhere and never came back. Maybe he just happened to pick up the relic he left behind. The second elder sneered. Do you think I will recognize him? This is simply an insult to Spirit King Xian Tian. These bastards often distort black and white. This is what they always do. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed a cold light. He thought that after revealing his identity, he thought that they will recognize him. Who knows, it will attract their greed. From their point of view, they are not doing this to protect Spirit King Xian Tian, they are doing this for themselves. Practicing the Xian Tian divine art can enhance their cultivation. There is a good chance for them to break through to core transformation stage. How can they not be tempted? Chapter 219. When Yi Tianyun was about to stand up and say something, Great Elder stood in front of He Qianhan and said, "Are you sure you want to do this? You don't want to admit Spirit King Xian Tian's last wish, but this old man is willing to admit that he is Spirit King Xian Tian's successor. Unless he is willing to hand it over, no one can force him to do anything. Moreover, Spirit King Xian Tian said that he will only pass it to his own disciple. I think there is a reason for this." Of course, Yi Tianyun knew that the Xian Tian divine art was incomplete. There is no content after that, which means that the cultivation of void spirit stage is the limit. Although this is already a very strong cultivation, Spirit King Xian Tian is not satisfied at all. Therefore, Xian Tian divine art is not suitable for a large number of people, especially for Heaven's Top Mansion's disciples. It is easy to have problems, and the conditions are not up to standard. Xian Tian divine art can only be passed on to his own disciple and improved from generation to generation. To put it bluntly, Xian Tian divine art can only harm his own disciple and the rest of Heaven's Top Mansion's disciples, or his own descendants. Great Elder, it seems that you want to go against the whole Heaven's Top Mansion? Second Elder's eyes are cold and he said, "Not to mention me, even the Mansion Lord also supports this behavior. I have been thinking for a long time, where did Xian Tian divine art go? If Spirit King Xian Tian is still alive, he will definitely choose to support us." He said it with a strong sense of righteousness, and every word is related to Heaven's Top Mansion, as if everything is for Heaven's Top Mansion. Second Elder, do you think I don't know what you are thinking? You just want the Xian Tian divine art. You haven't broken through for many years, so you want to practice the Xian Tian divine art. He Qianhan pointed out their inner thoughts. You keep saying that it is for the ancestors, for Heaven's Top Mansion, but do you really follow the ancestors' last wish? If you really get the Xian Tian divine art, are you willing to share it with any disciple? Of course, as long as the disciple has enough talent and contribution, then they can practice this Xian Tian divine art. Second Elder said with a strong sense of righteousness. Wait a moment. Yi Tianyun stood up and stretched out his hand to stop them from bickering. He attracted everyone's attention. Don't talk so much nonsense. I don't care what sect you're working for. I'm the successor now, and only I know the cultivation method of the Xian Tian divine art. Whether I give it to you or not depends on my mood, understand? Don't worry, I have 100 ways to force you to tell me. A ruthless look flashed through the Second Elder's eyes. Then I have 100 ways to beat you half to death. Yi Tianyun sneered, if you have the ability, why don't you try? He took a few steps forward, walking in front of the Great Elder and the others, hinting for them to make their move. How arrogant! I didn't expect Spirit King Xian Tian's Xian Tian divine art to be obtained by a trash. Since that's the case, I'll help Spirit King Xian Tian clean up the mess. The Second Elder sneered, stepped on the ground and rushed towards Yi Tianyun. He raised his hand and grabbed towards Yi Tianyun. His palm turned into an eagle's claw, blowing up a gust of wind. The Great Elder quickly stood in front of Yi Tianyun and said coldly, Second Elder, calm down. Great Elder, it seems like you're stubborn. Can I take this? The Second Elder completely ignored the Great Elder. His aura suddenly soared. Compared to before, it's obvious that he's going to use his full strength to fight the enemy. The Great Elder's aura also broke out. He stood in front of Yi Tianyun, obviously supporting Spirit King Xian Tian's last wish. Grandpa, your injury! Mu Xian exclaimed from the side. When the two of them were about to exchange blows, suddenly a figure rushed over and slapped the Second Elder's face. Pa! A clear and melodious sound echoed throughout the hall. The Second Elder was slapped hard against the wall. and with a muffled groan he slid down the wall. Blood flowed from his mouth, and his head was crooked to the side as if it had been deformed by the blow. There's only one way to slap your face. I've gotten used to it recently. Some people really can't stop, but your skin is really thick. You don't even blink when lying. Lee Tianyun walked out. His speed was so fast that they didn't even know how he moved. The second elder struggled to get up and roared, "Bastard, go to hell." He slapped the ground and the power of a spirit core cultivator bounced him up. Then he rushed towards Lee Tianyun like a fierce tiger. A cold light flashed in Lee Tianyun's eyes. He rushed forward, and with a faster speed he arrived in front of the second elder and kicked him with lightning speed, so fast that people can't see it clearly. Bang! The second elder was like a rubber ball, sent flying by his heavy kick, and smashed into the wall. A large part of his chest caved in, and who knew how many of his ribs were broken? The second way is to kick you all over. Lee Tianyun stopped and continued to walk towards the second elder. Lee Qianhan and the others were dumbfounded. Lee Tianyun's strength was too terrifying. He easily suppressed the second elder. What was the second elder's cultivation? He was at the 4th level of the spirit core stage. Does this mean that the cultivation of the second elder is already at the spirit core stage? Save me. The second elder weakly raised his hand and motioned the third elder to save him. The third elder finally reacted and looked at Lee Tianyun in horror. This kid has completely mastered the Spirit King Xian Tian's secret art. He even has a treasure. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to reach this level at such a young age. He quickly took out the jade pendant and crushed it. He stared at Lee Tianyun and said, "Good boy, it seems that we underestimated you, but this time you can't escape." He licked his lips as if he was looking at a treasure. As soon as he finished speaking, several figures came from all directions. Some of them were wearing black clothes, but Lee Tianyun could sense the aura of a spirit core stage cultivator from their bodies. These are the shadow guards from the Netherworld Empire. The great elder roared, You colluded with the Netherworld Empire? Could it be that the shadow guards were the ones who attacked me 2 days ago? Great elder, it seems that you are not stupid after all. You are lucky that you didn't get killed. Originally, I wanted to take control of the Heaven's Top Mansion, but I didn't expect that the successor of the Xian Tian divine art would come back. The second elder sneered, When the time comes, you will be rewarded handsomely if you offer the Xian Tian divine art to the Netherworld Emperor. Does that mean the Mansion Lord? The great elder's face turned pale. The Mansion Lord? The second elder sneered, We have already taken control of him. Do you think he is in seclusion? In fact, his meridians have already been broken and he has been locked in the basement. He refused to surrender, and this is his fate. You traitors! The great elder's face turned red as he coughed out a mouthful of blood. Grandpa, Mu Xian hurried to help the great elder. Chapter 220. The third elder saw that Lee Tianyun is still able to laugh. He sneered and said, Don't think that you are invincible just because you have a little bit of skill. Spirit King Xian Tian's ability is not bad, but unless you reach the core transformation stage, even if you are a dragon, you will not be able to escape. Lee Qianhan and the others' faces were ugly. They didn't expect these elders to be traitors, and it seems like they have been plotting this for a long time. They really thought that the Mansion Lord was in seclusion, but they didn't expect him to be imprisoned in the basement. You bunch of traitors! Deacon Qian was a traitor, and now it's your turn. No wonder you are so persistent in searching for the Xian Tian divine art. It's all because of the Netherworld Empire. The great elder straightened his body and said, If the anger in his eyes could be condensed, this place would have already turned into a sea of fire. The Heaven's Top Mansion has declined, and we don't have any resources. We can only survive by relying on those families. I don't want to live like this anymore. Becoming a subsidiary of the Netherworld Empire is the best choice for us. The third elder looked at them and said, The Mansion Lord has been resisting, saying that he would rather die than become a subsidiary. That's good, but the result is death. Oh no, he is not dead now, he is just trapped in the basement, suffering all the time. I want him to know the consequences of refusing. he said as he walked in front of the second elder and looked at him coldly. Save me. The second elder begged for help in an almost inaudible voice. Get out of here. At that moment, third elder sent a kick at the second elder, sending him flying. The second elder tumbled a few dozen times before coughing up blood. This action caused the great elder and the others to be shocked. Wasn't this their own people? Why did they even attack their own people? Trash, what's the use of saving you? The third elder laughed and said, From today on, I am the mansion lord. As for the rest of you, all of you will die today. There was no one else here except for Tianyun and the others. As long as they are killed, everything will go on as usual, and he will become the mansion lord. Originally, the second elder was the mansion lord, but now he is the mansion lord. If the second elder was dead, wouldn't he be the manor lord? The second elder pointed at him, his eyes wide open, his eyes filled with disbelief. He never thought that he would be tricked by his own people in the end. Pucci, his anger attacked his heart. He faced the sky and spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes widened. He was actually dead. Ding successfully killed the second elder, gained 24,400 EXP, 3,400 crazy points, 50 SPs, gained item flowing cloud blade, 10,000 EXP pill. What? Tianyun was stunned. He didn't expect the second elder to die just like that. It was a waste that he hadn't activated crazy experience mode. Although the last kick was from the third elder, the first few punches were from him. In the end, the system determined that he was the one who killed the third elder. Tianyun didn't find it strange that the third elder wanted to replace him. It wasn't unexpected for someone like him to stab his own people in the back. Once they encounter danger, they will definitely abandon their own people. When the third elder saw their furious expressions, he smiled and said, There is no need to be so angry, I will soon send you down to see him. Soon after, he raised his hand and pointed at them, Kill them. Besides that brat, kill the rest. Don't leave a single one alive. As soon as he said that, the 5 shadow guards flashed and disappeared in the air. You can't see where they are completely hidden in the space. They all cultivate a special space movement technique, which allows them to perfectly hide in the air, thus playing the role of assassination. Each of their cultivation is at second or third level of spirit core stage. Their cultivation may not be high, but their assassination skills are particularly high. The Great Elder was seriously injured by these shadow guards. If it wasn't for his high cultivation, he wouldn't be able to stand here. Come to my side. The Great Elder roared angrily, and a cold light burst forth from his eyes. However, there was even more decisiveness. For the sake of protecting his granddaughter, he decided to throw caution to the wind. He was prepared to fight to the death to carve out a path of blood and escape with them. Bang! 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 At that moment, the 3 black figures were sent flying and they slammed heavily into the wall. With a dong sound, the entire wall shook violently and it nearly collapsed. The shaking this time was much stronger than the previous one. Along with the shaking, they saw the shadow guards slide down from the wall. They are no longer breathing. Wanna catch me? Just with these garbage? Tianyun slowly retracted his foot. This time he really didn't hold back. It's a fatal kick. Successfully killed shadow guard. Reward, 170. 000 EXP, 3200 crazy point, 50 SPS point. Obtained shadow blade, mid-grade soul tool. Shadow Step. Successfully killed shadow guard. Reward, 170. 000 EXP, 3300 crazy point, 50 SPS point. Obtained shadow blade, shadow step. Reward, success. 3 sounds rang out, proving that the 3 shadow guards were easily killed by him without any difficulty at all. So what if they were in stealth? His concealment ability had also reached that level. More importantly, his cultivation was much higher than theirs, so he could easily detect their presence. The third elder was stunned. 5 shadow guards were killed just like that. What kind of power is this? At this time, a figure emerged from behind Tianyun, waved the shadow blade in his hand and stabbed him in the chest. When they judged that it is a dangerous person, they didn't hesitate to attack. Be careful. At the moment of attack, the great elders saw the shadow guard, but Yi Tianyun's speed is faster. He didn't look behind him, he raised his hand and grabbed the air. A black shadow seemed to be dragged out of the void by him, and then he did a violent shoulder throw behind him, heavily smashing into the shadow guard who had sneakily attacked him from behind. Boom! The two collided with each other, even the ground was smashed. This fall is too terrifying, as if it has the power of 1,000 jin. Everyone felt a kind of earthquake from the ground. This means that the power of this fall is very overbearing. Reward: successfully killed shadow guard. Reward: in just one fall, 2 shadow guards were smashed to pieces. It's a simple power, without any hesitation. Yi Tianyun doesn't want to waste time talking to them. He won't continue to attack them a second time. These shadow guards are ruthless. Not only will they not say anything, they will even self-destruct. Yi Tianyun simply killed them in one fell swoop. Chapter 221. The words "It's your turn" shocked the third elder. The 5 shadow guards were all dead. They could feel the aura of the shadow guards, which meant that they were completely dead. The 5 shadow guards were killed in a blink of an eye, which meant that Yi Tianyun's cultivation was even more terrifying. He must have reached 7th or 8th level of spirit core stage, otherwise, it would be impossible for him to deal with the shadow guards. The great elder and the rest were even more flabbergasted. Mu Xian didn't even know what to say as she recalled the place where she was beaten. If Yi Tianyun hit her with the same strength as today, then she would be dead for sure. She didn't expect that the person she went to prank was a monstrous genius. In front of Yi Tianyun, geniuses are not geniuses at all. Yi Tianyun looks so young, but he has already reached spirit core stage. She can't imagine how he cultivated. Yi Qianhan's mouth was wide open. She thought that she couldn't escape, but now it seemed that Yi Tianyun couldn't escape. This is the power of Spirit King Xian Tian? The third elder was shocked. He never thought that this would happen. The power of Spirit King Xian Tian? Yi Tianyun shook his head and said, "Don't exaggerate the power of Spirit King Xian Tian. It's true that I have cultivated the Xian Tian divine art, but it doesn't mean that it is invincible." He walked step by step towards the third elder. The third elder couldn't help but step back. He immediately turned around and ran outside. But Yi Tianyun was much faster than him. In the blink of an eye, he was already in front of the third elder and kicked him. Bang! The third elder was sent flying and landed in front of the great elder and the others. The third elder groaned and fell to the ground. His chest had sunk in. He was seriously injured. "Ask what you want to ask." Yi Tianyun signaled the great elder to ask. The first elder and the others came back to their senses. They glared at the third elder and said, "You traitor! It seems like everything that happened before was your doing." There's nothing left. There's nothing left. Kill me if you want. I've already given up. Everything is gone. The mansion lord is gone. My position is gone. The third elder's face was pale, and his eyes were lifeless. He had no hope of survival. He knew that he would not be able to escape this calamity. No matter how much he begged for mercy, it would be of no use. "Since you want to die so much, I'll help you." Yi Tianyun walked over and looked at the great elder. "Great elder, do you want to deal with him, or do you want me to deal with him?" If they wanted to deal with him personally, Yi Tianyun was more than willing to let them go. It would be even better if he killed him himself. Although the experience wasn't a lot, it would add up. "This bastard, let me deal with him personally." The great elder came in front of the second elder and waved his hand. At this time, the third elder suddenly burst out and quickly counterattacked. However, the first elder was not someone to be trifled with. With a backhand, he fiercely met the third elder's palm. Boom! The third elder was slammed to the ground by the great elder's strength. The surging strength made the third elder spit out a mouthful of blood. Originally, he was kicked by Yi Tianyun, so naturally, he couldn't resist the great elder's attack. "If you still want to struggle, I'll punish you with heaven's top mansion." The great elder's eyes flashed coldly, and without hesitation, he slapped the third elder's head. Mu Xian'er and the others couldn't help but close their eyes. They didn't dare to look at this scene. Heaven's top mansion. Sooner or later, it will belong to the Netherworld Empire. Ha! Boom! With a heavy palm strike, the third elder lost all signs of life. He was killed by the first elder's palm strike. Ding! Successfully killed the third elder, gained 23,000 EXP, 3,300 crazy point, 50 SBS. Obtained Heaven's top palm, Heaven's star step. Tianyun was stunned again. He didn't expect that his kick would have such an effect. It was really unexpected. He thought that it would only work if the third elder was on the verge of death, but it seems that as long as the third elder is seriously injured, even if he is killed, he can still get EXP. This is undoubtedly a missed opportunity for EXP, but if he keeps crazy mode on, it will be a waste of crazy points, so when he killed the shadow guard, he turned off crazy mode. We've finally dealt with this traitor. The great elder heaved a sigh of relief and suppressed his blood chi. His injuries were not suitable for battle. After killing the traitor, the great elder raised his hand and thanked Tianyun. Thank you, young hero E. I didn't expect you to reach this level of cultivation at such a young age. It really surprised me. This is really beyond my imagination, completely surpassing the older generation like us. No need to thank me. As the successor of Spirit King Xian Tian, it's normal for me to help Heaven's top mansion clean up the traitor. Tianyun said, now let's go save the mansion lord. Do you know where the basement is? The great elder nodded. His eyes are full of worry. He doesn't know how the mansion lord is now. Immediately, the great elder led them to the basement. Mu Xian'er secretly looked at him. Her eyes are flickering, even a little scared. I didn't expect a little demon girl to be scared too. Why are you looking at me? What's the difference? Tianyun smiled at Mu Xian. Mu Xian'er was scared. She shrunk her head to the side. She doesn't dare to look at Tianyun. This kind of heaven-defying cultivation, just thinking about it makes her scared. No, there's no difference. You're about the same age as me. Your cultivation is much stronger than me. Mu Xian'er looked at him and said, how did you cultivate? I can improve myself by fighting. Tianyun didn't lie. He really broke through by fighting. I can see that. Mu Xian'er gently stuck out her tongue. Tianyun's violent moves just now. She doesn't know how to fight. She has been staying here since she was a child. There are very few battles, especially life and death battles. At most, it's just an internal competition, but because she is the great elder's granddaughter, who would dare to hurt her? He Qianhan thought for a moment and said, Ancestor, did he leave any last wishes? She has admired Spirit King Xian Tian since she was a child. He is a Spirit King, more powerful than a core transformation cultivator. He belongs to the legend of Heaven's Top Mansion. He was the most powerful existence in the history of Heaven's Top Mansion, but unfortunately he died. No, he just wanted me to come to Heaven's Top Mansion, or become a disciple of Heaven's Top Mansion. He didn't force me. Chapter 222. Become a disciple of Heaven's Top Mansion. He Qianhan's eyes lit up, but she didn't say anything. Tianyun's cultivation is so strong. How can he be a disciple? At least he's an elder, but it's not appropriate to let him become an elder just like that. The great elder looked at Tianyun and smiled. Little brother E, to be honest, with your level, becoming an elder is not a problem. This time you helped us get rid of so many traitors. If you only become a disciple, it will undoubtedly be unfair to you. If you are willing to join Heaven's Top Mansion, I will give you the position of an elder. Even I am willing to step down as the second elder. This. Tianyun was silent. In fact, joining Heaven's Top Mansion won't cause too much conflict. Many second-grade forces were eager for their disciples to join a higher-grade force. That way, they would be able to get close to a powerful force, and there would be no problem at all. The problem is that he doesn't like to manage things, and now there are so many problems, he will go crazy. I know the situation of Heaven's Top Mansion is not very good, but please think about it. We won't force you. The great elder didn't force him to join Heaven's Top Mansion just because he is the successor of Spirit King Xian Tian. Tianyun raised his head. Obviously the great elder misunderstood his meaning. He just wanted to say that things are more troublesome. He doesn't have that much time to manage these things. He still has a lot of things to do. Immediately, under the lead of the great elder, they came to the basement of heaven's top mansion, opened the underground passage, and walked down together. No one usually comes down here, unless there are some prisoners, otherwise they won't be locked up here. Who would have thought that the mansion lord would be locked up here? The great elder said he can't help but speed up a few steps. He is worried about the mansion lord's situation. Soon, they went down, a musty smell floated from the inside, and in front of them is a dark place. The great elder lit a torch, raised the torch and walked inside, surrounded by empty cages. They didn't go far, they heard a faint voice coming from the front. "Hee hee, you bastards, are you here to torture me again?" A powerless and pained voice came from inside. "Mansion Lord." The great elder shouted, quickly walked forward, came to the front of the cage. Through the cold cage, he saw a middle-aged man leaning against the wall. His body is covered with blood, and his hair is messy. There are a lot of wounds on his body, especially his hands and feet are broken. He can't move at all, he can only lean against the wall weakly. "Great elder?" The middle-aged man squeezed out a little bit of strength, as if he saw hope. "Mansion Lord." The middle-aged man inside the cage. The great elder roared and took out a long sword. He aimed at the cage and chopped it down in 2 or 3 strikes. Actually, the cage wasn't very sturdy and could be easily broken. However, the palace lord's limbs had been cut off and his cultivation base had been crippled. Forget escaping, it would be a miracle if he could even move. After rushing in, Mu Xian cried out involuntarily when she saw the manor lord's condition. Immediately after, she covered her mouth tightly. The mansion master's condition is very miserable. If you look closely, you can see that he is in a much more miserable state than before. Blood is flowing to the side, there are all kinds of nails on the body. It looks very horrible. No one knows how many times he has been tortured. After Yi Tianyun saw this, he can't help but frown. These people are too cruel, they will torture those who resist them. This place is very dangerous. Quickly leave. The mansion master weakly raised his arm. He didn't even raise it for a long time before it fell down again. No, they are all dead, including the Netherworld Empire's lackeys, and the Shadow Guards, they are all dead. The great elder's eyes are red, his heart is full of pain. Looking at the miserable state of the mansion master, how can he not feel pain? The mansion master has always been a generous person. He didn't expect that he would fall into such a situation. Now, he felt that killing them was already too lenient. Anger surged out crazily again. "Yes, that's great." The mansion master showed a trace of smile, but his smile is very sad. "Mansion master, take a healing pill, cure." The great elder hurriedly took out a healing pill and gave it to the mansion master, but as soon as the mansion master ate it, he coughed up a mouthful of black blood. This is the symptom of poisoning. When Yi Tianyun saw the black blood, he frowned. It seems that they poisoned the mansion master. It seems that the mansion master is already beyond cure. Even if the mansion master recuperates in the future, he will basically become a waste. It is very difficult to cultivate again, unless there is a top-level divine pill, but the price is very high. I am afraid that the entire Heaven's Top Mansion will not be able to buy it. These bastards! The great elder shouted hysterically. His heart is filled with anger. "I can't do it any. Don't worry about me." The mansion master showed a faint smile. He is actually a bit free and easy. "No, there's no need to worry about the manor lord. We'll go look for the antidote now." Just as the great elder was about to lift him up, blood flowed continuously from his wound. Forget about bringing him out, he would definitely lose his life if he ran all the way back. Now the mansion master is in a state of dying. It seems that he will not live for long. It is useless. The poison they used, we need the corresponding poison pill to detoxify. The mansion master's voice is getting weaker and weaker, like a candle in the wind. It will be extinguished at any time. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed, immediately said, "Let me try." "Why don't you give it a try?" The Grand Elder and the others were stunned. Successfully accepted the quest, save the mansion master, reward, 1 million EXP, 10,000 crazy point, mansion master's favorability increased by 100, great elder's favorability increased by 100, Mu Xian, a favorability increased by 100, He Qianhan favorability increased by 100, prestige increased by 100. Yi Tianyun didn't say anything. He reached out his hand and touched the blood. His eyes stared. The appraisal eye is frantically analyzing the data of the blood, analyzing the poison in it, and then refining the antidote pill. Sure enough, with the help of the appraisal eye, it began to quickly analyze the poison in the blood. The appraisal eye can not only see the information of a person, but also the effect of the pill, and analyze the pill recipe. However, the higher the grade of the pill, the harder it was to analyze it. However, the toxins in the blood could still be analyzed. Analyzing, D successfully analyzed the poison in the blood, including venom butterfly, falling cloud grass. Done. Yi Tianyun nodded, immediately took out the purple fire divine furnace, took out a handful of spirit herbs and stuffed them into it, then the immortal fire rose up, illuminating the entire room. Alchemy? They are all shocked. Especially He Qianhan, Yun not only can carve divine runes, but also alchemy? Chapter 223. Throwing a handful of spirit herbs into the purple fire divine furnace, Yi Tianyun began to quickly refine pills. Because the grade is not very high, it does not take too long to refine. The whole place was lit up by the fire. There is no need for the torch in the hand of the great elder. The darkness of the basement was driven out. You can also refine pills? Yi Qianhan looked at the flame in Yi Tianyun's hand and knew that this is an extraordinary flame. I know a little. Refining a detoxification pill is not a problem. Yi Tianyun quickly printed. The entire purple fire divine furnace increased the fire to quench the spirit herbs. The speed is getting faster and faster. With the addition of this purple fire divine furnace, the refining speed and success rate are greatly improved. Naturally, there will be no problem. Of course, the most terrifying thing is not this. Crazy Alchemy Mode, activate. He rarely uses Crazy Alchemy Mode. The reason is relatively simple, that is, there is no need to refine so fast. Unless it is a competition or an urgent need for medicine, there is no need to rush to use the pill. Now the situation is more urgent, so he used Crazy Alchemy Mode. Suddenly the speed increased by 8 times. Originally in the appraisal eye, the purple fire divine furnace shows the refining time. It takes roughly an hour to refine. Under the 8 times mode, it is suddenly shortened by 8 times. This means that it only takes 10 minutes to refine easily. Of course, crazy mode must be kept on, otherwise the effect will be lost. It is a more wasteful method of crazy point. This is why he is usually not willing to use it. Now there is no time to care so much. It is more important to save people. In the blink of an eye, 10 minutes later, the pill was successfully refined. With a ping sound, the lid of the purple fire divine furnace flew up, and a few antidote pills landed in his hands. It was a perfect success, and the quality was also very good. Refining is successful. Yi Tianyun breathed a sigh of relief. This crazy mode is really fast enough. For refining high-grade pills, the effect will be more obvious. It takes a lot of time. Under the greatly reduced time, it will be quickly refined. What? The refining is successful? They are all dumbfounded. This refining speed is too fast. It is almost like cooking. In a blink of an eye, they did not even look at it. Give this detoxification pill to the mansion lord. First suppress the poison, then take the recovery pill, otherwise the recovery pill will not work. Yi Tianyun handed the detoxification pill to the great elder. The great elder nodded and gave the detoxification pill to the mansion lord. This time he did not vomit blood, and soon the effect appeared. The black color on the surface was slightly alleviated and faded a little. Maybe it will not disappear all at once, at least it will fade a lot. After some relief, the great elder gave the prefecture lord a recovery pill. Following which, the prefecture lord's complexion improved slightly and his wounds healed rapidly. The speed is a little, but at Palace Master of Master. The situation has stabilized a little. After a while, I should be able to move out for treatment. Yi Tianyun was relieved after seeing the situation improved. They are also relieved. Palace Master's condition seems to be a lot better. Although his cultivation cannot be restored, at least he is alive. Thank you, little brother, the mansion lord said with a little strength. Mansion lord, you are welcome. Yi Tianyun smiled. It is good to be able to save a life. After all, saving a life is better than building a 7-floor pagoda. The mansion lord did not say anything. He just quietly leaned on the wall to recover. Not long after, the blood in his body has solidified, and he is no longer bleeding. Now they can move the mansion lord out of the palace and put him in the bedroom. After taking a few detoxification pills, the mansion lord's condition improved greatly. In a few days' time it will be completely cured. As for the injury, it will take a lot of time to recover. This injury is more serious, especially the injury on the hands and feet. It will take a lot of time to recover. But the cultivation is abolished. It is really a problem that cannot be solved at the moment. The tendons in the mansion lord's hands and feet are broken. If you want to recover, you need tendon healing ointment. I don't know if Heaven's Top Mansion has the corresponding elixir. I can refine it. This tendon healing ointment is 4th grade. It is not difficult for him, so he can refine it. This is something that can only be refined by a 4th grade alchemist. You really know how to refine it. The great elder was shocked again. He couldn't tell what grade the detoxification pill was, but he knew the grade of the tendon-breaking healing ointment. At such a young age, he is already a 4th grade alchemist and divine rune master. This is heaven-defying. Yes, I can refine it. Yi Tianyun simply replied. That can be done. Let Xian Er take you to the pharmacy to get it. The great elder motioned Mu Xian Er to take Yi Tianyun to get it. He Qianhan is responsible for taking care of the mansion lord here. It is more troublesome to clean the wounds, so she temporarily has no time to bring it. Yes, Grandpa. Mu Xian Er nodded and said to Tianyun, Master Yi, I will take you there. What happened next made her feel incomparably shocked. Not only is his cultivation high, but he also knows 4th grade divine rune. She had never seen a 4th grade divine imprint before, but she had personally witnessed Qin Wentian's alchemy abilities. It was simply too shocking. When Yi Tianyun walked out with Mu Xian Er, he smiled and said, Little witch, why did you call me Master Yi? Am I not a lecher? You. Mu Xian Er bit her lips tightly. At that time, she only dared to do this when she was facing people of the same age or when the difference in strength wasn't that great. Now that the difference was so great, she was equivalent to an elder. How could she still dare to mess around? Okay, let's stop joking. The situation in Heaven's Top Mansion is quite chaotic. I don't know if there are other traders here. If we don't get rid of them, your safety will also be a problem. No, it has always been a problem, because the Netherworld Empire has their eyes on you. Even if they get rid of the traders, the Netherworld Empire has their eyes on Heaven's Top Mansion. Obviously, they won't let it go easily. Originally, they planned to let a puppet take control of Heaven's Top Mansion, but now that it was destroyed by them, the Netherworld Empire will not let it go easily. But they certainly won't do it openly, because it will attract the attention of other forces. More importantly, if they resist, they will be killed and occupying Heaven's Top Mansion will be meaningless. Chapter 224. Yi Tianyun followed Mu Xian Er to get the spirit herbs and quickly came back to refine the pill. No one came to disturb them during the process. Either they didn't dare to disturb them, or there was no trader. They were all fighting inside the hall. The disciples outside were cultivating as usual. They didn't know what happened inside. They didn't know that the mansion lord was seriously injured and was trapped in the basement. Phew, I'm done. Apply this broken tendon healing ointment on your hands and feet. It will heal after a while. Yi Tianyun handed the box full of ointment to the first elder. Thank you so much. If it weren't for you, we would have to go to Star Pavilion to buy it. Great elder said excitedly. Star Pavilion still has broken tendon healing ointment. After all, they still have a 4th level alchemist. If they don't even have a 4th level alchemist, then they don't need to open a treasure pavilion. Not only did they have a 4th level alchemist, they also have a 4th level blacksmith. Otherwise their comprehensive strength wouldn't be so strong. It's okay, as the successor of Spirit King Xian Tian, I'm a part of Heaven's Top Mansion. It's my duty to help. Yi Tianyun smiled, looking at the mansion lord lying on the bed. His complexion has improved a lot. It won't take too long for him to get out of bed and walk. Ding, completed. Rescue Mansion Lord quest, gained 1 million EXP, 10,000 crazy point, Mansion Lord's favorability increased by 100, Great Elder's favorability increased by 100, Mu Xian, a favorability increased by 100, He Qianhan favorability increased by 100, prestige increased by 100. This quest is very good, it increased a lot of favorability points. The most important thing is that it increased 100 prestige points. This is something that is related to all of his actions, the higher the better. He doesn't even need to activate Luck Aura. It's equivalent to activating Luck Aura at any time. Spirit King Xian Tian's successor. The Mansion Lord smiled and pointed at Yi Tianyun and said, "Little brother, my cultivation has been abolished. I can no longer be the Mansion Lord. Now, I officially appoint you as the Manor Lord, and the Great Elder will assist you. Are you willing to accept this position?" The sudden request stunned Yi Tianyun. Even He Qianhan and the others were stunned by the Manor Lord's words. All of this was too sudden. To think that Yi Tianyun would be appointed as the Manor Lord. In order to become a manor head, a strong cultivation was a must, but the most important thing was to be a person of virtue and prestige. Yi Tianyun had just arrived and didn't have much prestige. How could he convince the masses? On the other hand, the first elder was full of smiles, as if he had already discussed this matter with the manor head. "I don't have much prestige, so I definitely won't be able to gain the support of the disciples. If I can't convince the masses, how can I continue to hold the position of manor head?" Yi Tianyun shook his head. He didn't mind becoming the manor head. This meant that it wouldn't be a big problem to bring the two families together, and it would undoubtedly be easier to merge them. "We have already thought about this. You are the successor of Spirit King Xian Tian, so you already have a lot of prestige. Spirit King Xian Tian has a very high prestige in this Heaven's Top Mansion. You are his successor, so naturally, it will be easier for you to take the position. As for the other matters in Heaven's Top Mansion, the First Elder will assist you, so there won't be any problems." Obviously, they have already thought about what to do. Yi Tianyun is very capable, and with his identity as the successor of Spirit King Xian Tian, it will naturally be easier for him to take the position. Heaven's Top Mansion is currently in a very awkward situation. In addition to the First Elder, there is no other elder. 2 elders were killed by Yi Tianyun, and the only one left is the First Elder. As for the rest of the elders, there is no old ancestor at all. This means that the strongest person in charge is the First Elder. In theory, this is no longer Heaven's Top Mansion, but Heaven's Limit Sect. No wonder they are ridiculed. In addition to the houses, there are only a few strong cultivators. It's really miserable. Yi Tianyun was silent for a moment, and then immediately said, "Let's put it this way. In fact, I have a sect in the earthly border continent, and I am an elder of a second-grade force. I don't want to join other forces, I just want to attract disciples from other sects, or other cultivators to join us to strengthen our second-grade force. Heaven's Top Mansion is now in decline, so if I become the Mansion Lord, I will basically merge the two forces. As for which one will be the leader, I don't think it's necessary." Yi Tianyun's confession made them all stunned. They didn't expect Yi Tianyun to say this. In fact, even if he doesn't say it now, he will definitely say it in the future. It's impossible to do it secretly. "If we merge, according to your idea, your sect will be the leader, but this way Heaven's Top Mansion will completely disappear." Mansion Lord shook his head and refused. "This is definitely not possible. Our Heaven's Top Mansion has existed for many years. Even if it has declined, we don't want to disappear like this. Then divide into 2 forces, the female disciples will join the sect here, and the male disciples will stay in Heaven's Top Mansion." Yi Tianyun thought of a way. Jade's sect can continue to be dominated by female disciples, and the male disciples can stay in Heaven's Top Mansion. This way there won't be any conflict. "Well, your sect only recruits female disciples?" They were all stunned. Although Heavenly Border Continent also has similar sects, they didn't expect that Earthly Border Continent also has it. "Yes, only recruit female disciples, so it's easier to improve," Yi Tianyun said. "This still won't work." Mansion Lord shook his head and immediately asked, "By the way, what is the name of your sect?" "Jade's sect, originally called Jade Palace, but because the level of the sect reached a certain level, it was promoted to second-level faction." Tianyun explained. Jade sect, Jade Palace? Jade Palace. Mansion Lord was shocked. This, do you know whose name is Jade Palace? Could it be? Tianyun was stunned for a moment, and an idea popped up in his head. Yes, Jade Palace is the name of Spirit King Xian Tian. His original name is He Tian Xian. The Mansion Lord was surprised. If it's not a coincidence, then Spirit King Xian Tian is the one who founded this heavenly Jade sect. Judging from the situation at that time, Spirit King Xian Tian was very dissatisfied with Heaven's top mansion, so he left. According to this, it's really possible that he founded a sect outside, but all the disciples are female. No, it seems that the first palace lord is a male. It's very likely that it's the sect founded by Spirit King Xian Tian. This point needs to be investigated. Tianyun smiled and said, So, this is a family. If that's the case, I don't know if Mansion Lord is willing to merge the two forces? Merging is the biggest trend. To completely strengthen a sect, it's not enough to only have female cultivators. After all, it also needs male cultivators to stand up. Chapter 225. He didn't expect that Jade Palace, the current Jade sect, was founded by Spirit King Xian Tian. The original Jade Palace had both men and women, but later it seems that Spirit King Xian Tian left. Maybe there was some conflict, and finally all the men were driven away. Tianyun guessed that Spirit King Xian Tian abandoned the old ancestor of Jade Palace. So the old ancestor of Jade Palace was angry and drove all the male cultivators away. Whether it's true or not, he has to go back and investigate who the first palace lord is and what's his name. If it's Spirit King Xian Tian, then the merger will be very easy. There aren't many people in Heaven's top mansion, but this area is very good, very suitable as a cultivation site. Every sect will choose a very good location, so there is no need to worry about the environment here being inferior to other sections. Since you are willing to merge, then I am willing to be the Mansion Lord. Tianyun smiled. He is very satisfied with this result. But if that's the case, I don't know why Spirit King Xian Tian went to the Earth border continent to create a force. They shook their heads. There are a lot of things they don't know. They just have a little guess. After finalizing the matter, Tianyun began to learn about the situation of Heaven's top mansion. As for when to announce his position to the whole Heaven's top mansion, this matter has to wait for a while, at least when the Mansion Lord can move freely. After all, if this situation is announced, it will easily cause many disciples to be shaken. Therefore, this matter will be delayed. There is no need to be particularly anxious. According to Tianyun's understanding, Heaven's top mansion is really terrible. It can really be named as Heaven's limit sect. For the time being, aside from Heavenly Rune Pavilion, the rest of the pavilions are very bad. The number of people is really pitiful. There is not much resources. Some places are even worse than Heavenly Jade sect. It can be imagined how bad this Heaven's top mansion is. The situation of Heaven's top mansion seems to be a bit embarrassing. Tianyun closed the book. There are all kinds of things recorded here. When he looked up at the Great Elder, the other party is really embarrassed. That is indeed the case. It has been a long time since a disciple joined, or they left not long after joining. If it wasn't for the good environment here, there really wouldn't be many people joining. Sigh, it's all our fault that the entire sect has fallen to such a state. The Great Elder sighed. I've been to the Heavenly Rune Pavilion before. The situation was rather serious. Some disciples were extremely arrogant and disrupted the unity. Although I don't oppose competition, this is not healthy competition. Tianyun said in a low voice, we must get rid of these dregs. We'd rather take in some disciples with slightly lower talents and lower the standards than those spoiled disciples. We've considered this before, but we have to consider the issue of their offerings. The Grand Elder is embarrassed. Everyone knows the situation of Heaven's top mansion. If they want to take action, it means that the tribute will be greatly reduced. But doing this is undoubtedly tantamount to drinking poison to quench thirst. Sooner or later, it will cause the destruction of the entire sect. I don't believe that such a big sect doesn't even have the ability to rely on itself. I think the main reason is that your requirements are too high, resulting in fewer new disciples joining. Even if there are a lot of new disciples joining, they will be driven away by these garbage. Yi Tianyun said in a low voice, Grand Elder, cut off this part of the people, abandon this part, and keep the normal ones. It's not that he can't recruit disciples from big families. On the contrary, he will be more than happy to recruit disciples from big families. But these disciples are more arrogant than the other. Recruiting them is equivalent to courting death. After a moment of silence, the Grand Elder nodded and said, You're the mansion lord now, we'll do as you say. Well, I don't know much about management in this area. In fact, there are a lot of people who understand management and also know how to select disciples. For the time being, we can't move here, but at least we need to stabilize this place. In the future, I will move here and make this place our residence. Leonyun said. The Grand Elder nodded. That's good. When the mansion lord can get up, we will announce this matter and make drastic changes to heaven's top mansion. Yi Tianyun nodded. It's good that the mansion lord can do this, but he's afraid that the mansion lord won't be willing to change. By that time, it's equivalent to the tree trunk being bitten by worms. It's already too late to change. At least there's still some hope for the mansion lord to change now. When they were about to continue to talk about other topics, a disciple came in from outside and said respectfully, Grand Elder, the Netherworld Empire's envoy is here to visit. Netherworld Empire's envoy? Yi Tianyun and Great Elder looked at each other. This is really a good time. The other party must have come with bad intentions. Let's go out. The Grand Elder nodded and took the lead to go out. When they walked into the main hall, they saw a middle-aged man leisurely sipping tea. When he saw them coming out, he didn't get up to greet them. Instead, he smiled and said, You're here. This arrogant attitude is as if he's the owner of this place. He doesn't look like a visitor at all. His cultivation is not low, 7th level core condensation. As an errand boy, it's very high. Although he's called an envoy, he's actually just an errand boy. So it's Envoy Wang, I'm sorry for not coming out to greet you. The Grand Elder said politely. Although he was attacked by the Shadow Guards, there are still some things that he can't say. The Netherworld Empire is a colossus. Even if they attack you, they can't fight back. Heaven's top mansion had a spirit king Xian Tian, but that was many years ago. But now, the Netherworld Empire has a void spirit stage master, which is also known as the Spirit King. It wasn't just one, but several void spirit stage powerhouses. Any one of them could easily annihilate a grade 3 force. This was strength. Well, this time, I'm here to invite you to the Empire's grand banquet. Wang Ji took out an invitation card and handed it over. When the time comes, please be sure to come. I don't want to see you absent. He still didn't stand up, he just sat on the chair and didn't take the previous incident seriously. They believe that the Shadow Guards are dead, otherwise, they won't personally come to deliver the invitation card. This will go. The Great Elder took the invitation and maintained a smile on his face. It was as if he had been slapped in the face, but he was still smiling. Well, we'll go. Wang Ji stood up, swayed his body and walked out. He couldn't be bothered with them anymore. Chapter 226. In fact, they didn't write anything on the post. They just wrote the words, Netherworld Empire, in gilded characters. The rest was to indicate the location, and nothing else. They didn't even write the invitations, they just sent people to the Netherworld Empire. But that was enough. If they didn't dare to go, then the consequences would be unimaginable. Yi Tianyun didn't dare to fight against an empire. He could fight against ordinary core transformation cultivators, but against a void spirit stage cultivator, he would be crushed. Otherwise, with his personality, he would have given Wang Ji a tight slap in the face when he saw how arrogant Wang Ji was. So arrogant, why don't you go to heaven? Of course, Wang Ji couldn't go to heaven, he hasn't reached the core transformation stage, he was only at the core condensation stage. It seems that they didn't come with good intentions, they probably want to recruit us. Yi Tianyun looked at the invitation card, it was like a piece of burning charcoal, it was very hot. Well, so many Shadow Guards were killed, they must think that there are still strong cultivators on our side. The traitors are all dead, the only thing left is to recruit them. The Great Elder thought for a moment and said, Yi Tianyun narrowed his eyes, he originally wanted to go, but he planned to go with Star Pavilion, but now he was going as a representative of Heaven's top mansion. He didn't care what would happen to Star Pavilion in the future, it's not his sect anyway. But now Heaven's top mansion is different. He has already taken over, Heaven's top mansion is under his control. If it's an ordinary recruitment, it's okay, he can only pretend to surrender, but if it's a brutal recruitment, then people will be sent to manage it, it will be very difficult. There's not much time left, it seems that we can go now. Yi Tianyun looked at the invitation card, it's at most 2 weeks. As for the location, it's set in Dragon Gathering City, which is not far from Star Pavilion. Dragon Gathering City is under the control of Netherworld Empire, so entering their territory is not a good thing. Well, it's about time to go, we just need to prepare a little, then we can go. The Great Elder nodded and said, "How about this? You go to Dragon Gathering City and wait for me, I'll go somewhere first, I'll be there soon." Yi Tianyun thought for a moment and said, "All right, I will wait for you at the Heavenly Yuan Inn in the Gathering Dragon City. That inn is quite famous." Clearly, the first elder had been there before as he said the name of the inn. Yi Tianyun nodded and left Heaven's top mansion. The reason why Great Elder didn't ask anything is simple, that is, he respects Yi Tianyun's opinion. If he wants to say it, he will say it naturally, so there is no need to ask anything. The place that Yi Tianyun went was Star Pavilion, but he didn't go there to greet them, he wanted to say it, so there was no need to ask. Although he felt sorry for the Star Pavilion, this was the only place he could go if he wanted to quickly improve his cultivation. With a dong, he jumped into the pool and entered the secret room through the passage at the bottom. There was no problem as before, and no one would come in here. After re-entering this place, he took a deep breath and found a place to meditate. Absorbing Star's Great Technique, open. Dark North Divine Art, open. Dark North Divine Art, open. After Yi Lin activated it, a strong suction force began to suck the spiritual energy into his body, turning it into a huge amount of experience. He planned to cultivate here until the next day. He should be able to increase his level by 2. As time passed, the spiritual energy became thinner, it looked clearer and clearer, just like water. Even the secret room, which was made of spiritual jades, began to become transparent. Obviously, this secret room was connected to the entire Heavens Will Jade pool. Once the spiritual energy on the other side was sucked dry, it would be transported out. If this continued for a long time, it would be completely gone. Star Pavilion quickly noticed this situation. Just when someone went in to absorb the spiritual energy, he rushed out and said with dissatisfaction, This Heavens Will Jade pool has no spiritual energy left, and you still want me to go in to absorb it. Give me back my soul tool." This cultivator used a few soul tools to enter, but he didn't expect that the concentration of spiritual energy was too weak, it was only a little bit stronger than outside, it was meaningless to him. Impossible, the concentration was quite high last time, how can there be no spiritual energy? Elder Yun frowned and walked in. What he saw was no longer the rich spiritual energy, but the very thin spiritual energy, it was much weaker than before. It's really... Elder Yun was stunned by this scene. How can the spiritual energy disappear just like that? He turned to look at the guard next to him and said in a deep voice, "What's going on? Did anyone go in during this period?" "No, this has been closed for a while, no one went in." As guards, they wouldn't lie. They were also shocked by the scene in front of them. The spiritual energy was inexplicably sucked dry. It looked like it had been absorbed for a long time, leaving only a pool of clear water. This cultivator could go down, but he just went down to take a bath. No one went in, that's strange. Elder Yun frowned. This was a big problem. If they didn't investigate it clearly, it would be extremely troublesome. "Elder Yun, how should I solve my problem now?" This cultivator was very dissatisfied. "I'm sorry, I'll return all the soul tools to you. We didn't expect this to happen." Elder Yun hurriedly apologized. "Forget it, it's really unlucky, it's a waste of my time." The cultivator snorted and turned to leave. It was rare for him to come here to cultivate, but he didn't expect to come here to take a bath. How could he not be angry? Generally, those who came here to cultivate were disciples of big sections. They came from thousands of miles away, but found that they couldn't absorb the spiritual energy. After sending the cultivator away, Elder Yun said in a deep voice, "Start investigating and find out what's going on here." A group of people rushed into the heavenly spiritual jade pool and began to investigate the situation to find out what exactly was going on. Tianyun, who was in the secret room, was very happy to absorb the spiritual energy outside. A steady flow of EXP was helping him to level up. Ding! Congratulations to player Tianyun for successfully breaking through to 9th level Spirit Core stage. But he was still not satisfied. He continued to absorb the spiritual energy like crazy. He wanted to absorb the spiritual energy to the peak of Spirit Core stage, then use the upgrade card to break through to Core Transformation stage in one go. With enough strength, he would be able to fight against a 3rd grade force, let alone an empire. Chapter 227. After Tianyun broke through to 9th level Spirit Core stage, he continued to absorb energy like crazy. The room around him has gradually become transparent, but he doesn't care about this at all. He is still absorbing energy like crazy. He couldn't stop absorbing the spiritual chi at all. He only had one thought in his mind, and that was to level up. As he continued to absorb the spiritual chi, it was already a mess. He continued to look for the problem, but no matter what he did, he couldn't find the problem. The concentration of the spiritual chi continued to decrease. It was as if someone was madly absorbing the spiritual chi, causing the concentration of the spiritual chi in the heavenly spiritual jade pool to continue to decrease. What the hell is going on? Is the spiritual chi leaking out? Elder Yun's brows were tightly knitted together as he searched inside and out, but he could not find the corresponding problem. All the guards were dispatched to search everywhere, even the heavenly spiritual jade pool, but they still couldn't find the problem. This made him very anxious. If Pavilion Master Li came, how could he explain it to him? Just as he was thinking about this matter, Li Tianlong came from the outside. When he saw that the heavenly spiritual jade pool was about to turn into water, he frowned and said, "What the hell is going on? The concentration of the spiritual chi is so low." "Pavilion Master Li, I don't know. We have been guarding this place, and no one has come in. Now that I came in to check, I can't find the reason. The spiritual chi continues to flow out." Elder Yun wiped his cold sweat and hoped that Pavilion Master Li wouldn't blame him. "I am afraid that there is something wrong with the underground spiritual vein. When Star Pavilion built this spiritual vein, they considered the problem of consumption. Sooner or later, the spiritual vein will be exhausted. Now that this situation has occurred, it is very likely that the spiritual vein has collapsed and the spiritual chi has been exhausted." Li Tianlong shook his head and said, "Forget it, don't worry about it. Collect all the spiritual herbs here, and you don't need to guard this place anymore." Li Tianlong had completely given up. Looking at the clear heavenly spiritual jade pool, he felt that it was no longer a heavenly spiritual jade pool, but a pool. "All right." Elder Yun shook his head helplessly and turned to look at the heavens will jade pool. It seemed that Pavilion Master Li had already given up struggling. It seemed like he was already crippled. There was no need to care about him. In other words, they could just leave it there. If it recovered one day, they could continue using it. If it didn't, they could just use it as a swimming pool. It was a pity that the spirit vein would be hard to recover. In the secret chamber below, Tianyun was crazily absorbing the energy, activating the 3 great divine incantations like a hurricane, sucking away everything around him. Especially the secret room. They didn't even need to push the door open to see the crystal coffin inside. One could only imagine the extent to which Tianyun had sucked it dry. If this continued, there would be nothing left. As for the spirit veins buried underground, they could be restored, but who knew how many hundreds or even thousands of years it would take to restore just a little bit. Crack! At this moment, a crack appeared on the top of the secret chamber. Then, it quickly spread in all directions like a dense spider web, forming dense cracks. Then, with a boom, the entire secret chamber collapsed and turned into a pile of dust. At this moment, Tianyun slowly opened his eyes. A ray of light shot out from his eyes. He looked at the collapsed secret chamber and the situation around him. He was instantly stunned. I sucked away all the energy here? No wonder I felt that the absorption speed was so much slower. It was all sucked away by me. But it's really too little. I can't even level up by 1 level. He could imagine that this place had been sucked dry for a long time and was already close to drying up. After being sucked away by him, it had completely dried up. It could only be said that the amount of experience he needed was too much. It exceeded his budget. He thought that he could level up 2 levels here, but who knew that he could only level up by 1 level? However, he was almost done with the remaining level. There was only a small part left before he could level up. If he could absorb a little more, he would definitely level up. Let's look at the current situation first. He called out the current status window and looked at the current situation. Player, Etienne level, 39, 9th level Spirit Core, EXP, 1873689 Crazy Point Prestige, 630 point Sin Point, 2956 Cultivation Techniques, Dark North Divine Art, Dragon God Secret Art, Xian Tian Divine Art, Heaven Devouring Divine Art Martial Arts, Absorbing Stars Great Technique, Blood Fiend Soaring Sky, Azure Cloud Sword Technique, Azure Cloud Steps Weapon, Frost Fist, Blood Fiend Divine Spear, Sword of Endlessness, Chaotic Heaven Sacred Axe, Blood Dragon Bone Blade Armor, Divine Armor, Shadow Cloak, Chaotic Heaven Divine Armor, Chaotic Heaven Battle Boots, Blood Fiend Divine Armor Divine Ability, Crazy Mode, Luck Aura, Teleportation Bloodline, Dragon God Bloodline Decoration, Forging God Hammer, Power Bracelet, Power Ring, Power Belt, Blood Fiend Bracelet. All items. 8 Recovery Medicinal Pills, Gift Pack LV41, Life *1, Bad Luck Divine Pill, Blast Divine Pill Treasure, Purple Fire Divine Furnace, Blood Jade, Coiling Dragon Treasure Map, Jade Pearl, Commander Grimoire, Phoenix Wing Title, Guardian, Savior Flame, Immortal Fire. Crazy Point reached more than 1.8 million. This is the highest Crazy Point he has ever had. He can upgrade several things, but he is not in a hurry. For the time being, he does not need to upgrade. Everything depends on what he needs to upgrade. If he upgrade carelessly, it will be difficult to earn Crazy Point later. This is all thanks to him cleaning up the Wang family. He got a lot of Crazy Point. He also got a lot of items. They were cleared and sold by him. All the items that dropped are Earth-level martial arts. The price will definitely not be low. This makes him feel very satisfied. Sure enough, if he wants to earn Crazy Point, killing monsters is the fastest way. Not only can he get more experience, but also more Crazy Point. If someone dares to provoke him, he will be happy to clean them up. There is not much time left. It is almost time to go to the Gathering Dragon City and gather with the Great Elder. Tianyun stood up and quickly left the place and flew to the Gathering Dragon City. Not long after he left, the sound of digging came from above. Soon the place was completely dug up. A group of people fell down from above, and when they saw the scene in front of them, they were shocked. They did not expect there to be a secret room here, but this secret room looks terrible. There is a secret room here. What is going on? Elder Yun was shocked. When they were preparing to leave, they heard the sound of collapse coming from the ground. They quickly dug down to see what is going on. They saw the situation, but it seems to be meaningless, because there is only a pile of waste left. No one is here. What is the point? Chapter 228. Tianyun didn't go to the Star Pavilion. Instead, he went to the Dragon Gathering City. With the speed of the Phoenix Wings, he reached the Dragon Gathering City very quickly. When he arrived at the Dragon Gathering City, the magnificent city in front of him was the Netherworld Empire's Dragon Gathering City. The Dragon Gathering City was a place where strong cultivators gathered. It was a good name, but the Dragon Gathering City wasn't as strong as expected. Apart from being magnificent, there weren't many strong cultivators inside. It was just a big city. The Dragon Gathering City was managed by the Netherworld Empire, but it wasn't the main city. Hence, there weren't many strong cultivators here. Now that the invitations were sent out and a group of strong cultivators gathered here, it became a real Dragon Gathering City. After entering, it was no different from a normal city. On the bustling streets, there were people coming and going to do business. It was very lively. When he just entered, there were many cultivators walking around. The cultivation of the cultivators here was obviously much higher than in ordinary cities. This wasn't the usual situation of the dragon-gathering city. Instead, it was because of the invitation this time around. Quite a number of sects had brought their own disciples over. There were also quite a number of people who had come over to join in the fun. Heaven Essence Inn. Tianyun looked around, trying to figure out where Tianyuan Inn is. When he wanted to find someone to ask for directions, an angry voice came from behind. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. He turned his head and saw a carriage of feathers rushing towards him. The giant eagle wasn't flying but running towards him. It was crashing around on the continent, scaring many people into retreating to the side. Some cultivators couldn't dodge in time and were sent flying by the giant eagle. They landed on a shop nearby and were in pain. Motherfucker! Who dares to act so arrogantly here? Let me stop him. Are you crazy? Look at the words carved on the carriage. That's the carriage of the Netherworld Empire. It's true, some of the experts who saw the injustice and pulled out their swords to help immediately shrank back when they saw the word Netherworld carved on the carriage. It was undeniable that there were a lot of experts in this place. Many of them were willing to lend a helping hand, but when they saw that the carriage belonged to the Netherworld Empire, they retreated. Ordinary sects wouldn't dare to do as they pleased here. Even Grade 3 forces wouldn't dare to act recklessly here. If they provoked another Grade 3 force, it would be no laughing matter. The most important thing was that he was afraid of encountering the people of the Netherworld Empire. The people of the Netherworld Empire were very arrogant. They didn't care about the situation of the passers-by and directly rushed in. It seemed like they had encountered something urgent and wanted to go back to report. Lee Dun-yun took a closer look and realized that it was indeed the case. The wings of the giant eagle were injured. No wonder it couldn't fly. He retreated to the side, dodging the giant eagle's charge. Looking at the giant eagle rushing out, he shook his head. Daring to injure the forces of the Netherworld Empire, it seems that they have a lot of courage. Lee Tianyun narrowed his eyes and looked at the injuries on the giant eagle's wings. Obviously, the matter was not that simple. After this little episode, the place quickly returned to its previous tranquility. At most, they would vent their dissatisfaction in their hearts. No one dared to argue with the Netherworld Empire. Soon he found the Tianyuan Inn. It was very interesting and the decorations were quite unique. Other inns were made of ordinary wood or stone, but this inn was decorated with a kind of fragrant wood. As soon as he entered, he could smell a particularly pleasant smell. It gave a very peaceful feeling and made people feel very comfortable. This was the effect of an inn. Although it could make people feel peaceful, the situation in the inn was not so peaceful right now. Innkeeper, is there no other room here? A big man roared at the innkeeper and constantly slammed the table. Pa. The sound of his slamming echoed throughout the lobby. Sir, we really don't have any room here, all of them are booked. The innkeeper smiled bitterly. What? We came here so many days in advance and it's still booked? The big man was very dissatisfied. His companions were also very dissatisfied. The innkeeper sincerely apologized. I'm very sorry, we usually don't have enough rooms. This time, we really don't have any other room. If there is a room, I will definitely give it to you. The Netherworld Empire invited a lot of forces to attend the banquet, so there were a lot of people in the dragon gathering city. Those who came a little late would have no choice but to choose a poorer inn or camp outside. This Heaven Essence Inn was so unique that it received the favor of many cultivators. Therefore, it had long been fully booked. Do you know which force we are from? The big man slammed the table and said angrily, We are from the Divine Rune Mansion. If there is no room, you are dead. Divine Rune Mansion? Lee Tianyun frowned. This Divine Rune Mansion is considered as an upper middle force, which is a lot stronger than Heaven's top mansion. No wonder they are so arrogant. Most importantly, it was such a coincidence that he had met someone from the Divine Inscription Manor again. That Lin Li from before was still fresh in his mind. Sir, we really don't have any room. If there is, we will definitely arrange it for you. The innkeeper said bitterly. He didn't want to do business, but he was afraid of these rude and unreasonable customers. Give me the account book, I want to see who is staying here. Li Huan snatched the account book and started flipping through it. He wanted to see who exactly was staying here. Yi Tianyun shook his head. It seems like this matter is going to be big. He was too lazy to look at the account book and immediately went upstairs. The great elder told him that the room should be on the 3rd floor. They came early, so they should be able to book it. When he came to the 3rd floor, he wanted to see which room the great elder was staying in. Suddenly, he heard a loud shout. Heaven's top mansion? This garbage Heaven's top mansion dared to stay in 2 private rooms? I'm going to kick them out now. A garbage force, already a 2nd-grade sect, dared to stay in 2 private rooms? I suspect that the Netherworld Empire didn't invite them. They must be here to join in the fun. Immediately, Li Huan walked up with a group of angry disciples. Because the corridor is narrow, Li Huan bumped into Yi Tianyun. Kid, get out of my way. Li Huan said angrily. Bang! Li Huan hit Yi Tianyun heavily, but the one who was hit was not Yi Tianyun, but Li Huan was bounced out, just bounced to the top of the stairs, then couldn't stop his feet, and rolled down the stairs, making a dong 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 sound. Obviously, he was mocking Heaven's top mansion for being reduced to a 2nd-grade force, even inferior to a high-grade 2nd-grade force. In the eyes of a 3rd-grade force, a 2nd-grade force is no different than trash. Won't pursue this matter with our Heaven's top mansion? The great elder stood up and said, What a big tone. I think if he didn't make the first move, our people wouldn't have made a move. He didn't say it was the mansion lord. He wanted to keep it a secret for the time being. After all, the mansion lord is too young. I'll say it for the last time, cripple one of your hands, or else it won't be as simple as crippling a hand. Lin Feng's cultivation isn't very high, he's only at 5th level core condensation, but the guard next to him is at 6th level spirit core, which is higher than the great elder of Heaven's top mansion. The great elder frowned. These people are unreasonable. He knows that Yi Tianyun will never make a move, so it must be the Heaven's top mansion's problem. What reasoning was bullshit? To the big sects, he was the reason. Yi Tianyun's eyes turned cold. Then I'll say it for the last time, either get out of my sight, or I'll kick you down. Lin Feng's eyes turned gloomy. He didn't expect that a kid would dare to talk back to him. He raised his hand and pointed at Yi Tianyun and said coldly, Heaven's top mansion is so arrogant. Cripple him. The silent spirit core expert rushed towards Yi Tianyun. The great elder tried to block the attack for Yi Tianyun. But Yi Tianyun's speed is faster. He lifted his foot and kicked the spirit core realm expert. Bang! The spirit core realm expert was kicked down the corridor and fell heavily on the ground. His whole body sunk. It seems that the kick is not light at all. It's your turn. Yi Tianyun walked towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng and the others were shocked by this scene. A spirit core stage cultivator was sent flying by a kick and was instantly killed. You dare to attack me? I'm from the Divine Rune Mansion. Lin Feng's body trembled. He was scared by Yi Tianyun's strength. Get the hell out of here. Yi Tianyun slammed his foot on Lin Feng. Lin Feng quickly blocked it, but how could he resist this overbearing kick? He was kicked out of the corridor, and then fell heavily to the ground. With a pung sound, he didn't even have the slightest breath left. Ding! Successfully killed Lin Feng. Reward, 23,000 EXP, 2,400 Crazy Point, 30 SBS, 500 Divine Rune Mastery. Obtained Skyward Secret Art, Heavenly Sun Art. Obtained Purple Golden Feather Fan. Huh? He's dead? Yi Tianyun froze for a moment. He didn't expect Lin Feng to be so fragile. He just wanted to teach them a little lesson. He didn't expect Lin Feng to be so fragile. He fell from the 3rd floor and died. But it doesn't matter, Yi Tianyun doesn't care at all. Following that, a few more kicks were sent flying. Li Huan and the others were all sent flying. They fell from the sky one after another, suffering serious injuries. They were lucky that they didn't fall to their deaths. A group of people were groaning in pain in the Great Hall. This fall was not light at all. The expert climbed up without saying a word and picked up Lin Feng's body. He glared at Yi Tianyun fiercely and then left with Lin Feng without saying a word. Maybe he's mute, or maybe he doesn't want to talk. Manor Lord, Isn't this a little too big of a commotion? The Grand Elder was dumbfounded when he saw the disciples of the divine inscription manor being kicked away. Mu Xian'er next to him was also shocked. She has seen Yi Tianyun being overbearing, but she has never seen such an overbearing person. The other party is the Divine Rune Mansion, a third-grade faction, which is a lot stronger than them. Blindly enduring will only make us weaker and weaker. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed. Since I am the mansion lord, I should do something for Heaven's top mansion and maintain the dignity of Heaven's top mansion. Chapter 230. Protect the dignity of Heaven's top mansion. This sentence made their blood boil. Their power was inferior to others, and their dignity was being trampled on. How could they be willing to accept this? Now that Yi Tianyun stood up for them, it reignited the fire in their hearts. We will listen to the Mansion Lord's instructions. Whatever the Mansion Lord wants us to do, we will do it. The Great Elder nodded heavily. He was completely convinced by Yi Tianyun. Previously, he thought that Yi Tianyun had good potential, and because of the previous Mansion Lord, he recognized Yi Tianyun as the Mansion Lord. But now, it was different. They seemed reckless and not low-key enough, but they were bullied and didn't resist. The only ending was to die in silence. If they were all going to die, then they might as well fight for their dignity. Heaven's top mansion was quite famous in the past, and everyone was proud of it. But now, they were like a tiger being bullied by a dog. How could they be willing to accept this? Yi Tianyun smiled slightly. Even if it was an empire level, he would still beat them. The other party was riding on his head, and even threatened to cripple one of his hands. This was impossible. Not to mention, he was not afraid of any third-grade force. No matter how many came, he would kill them all and turn them into experience points. Divine Rune Mansion is really restless. It seems that they are like Lin Li, arrogant because they are from Divine Rune Mansion? It was undeniable that Divine Rune Mansion was famous enough. Originally, they were relatively strong in the field of Divine Rune Mansion. No wonder they were so arrogant. He thought that Divine Rune Mansion only had Lin Li as trash, but now it seemed that he was wrong. They were simply a pile of trash. Each and every one of them looked down on others, plus they were used to being arrogant. In the face of a lower-ranked force, they would not give any face at all. This matter made Yi Tianyun hate Divine Rune Mansion even more. He hoped that Divine Rune Mansion would not continue to provoke him. Otherwise, if he completely trampled them, he could earn a lot of Divine Rune proficiency points so that he could quickly improve his Divine Rune proficiency. Immediately, they returned to their rooms. Yi Tianyun was alone in a room, and the other four were in another room. At their level of cultivation, they didn't need to sleep much. All they had to do was meditate, so it didn't matter if they had a bed or not. Yi Tianyun asked them to come over and rest together, but the Grand Elder and the others insisted that Yi Tianyun be alone in a room. This was the treatment that a manor head deserved. Yi Tianyun felt helpless and could only stay in the room. It was getting late for the banquet. It would arrive the day after tomorrow, so they didn't have to wait too long. Originally, he had planned to arrive at this time, so he didn't have to wait too long. In the blink of an eye, time passed. During this period of time, nothing happened. No one from the Divine Inscription Manor came to cause trouble for him. It's about time. Yi Tianyun opened his eyes. He was here to simply inscribe some divine imprints and cultivate a little to earn some proficiency points. He wants to transfer Jade's sect to Heaven's top mansion as soon as possible. Once the two sects merge, there is no doubt that the overall strength of Heaven's top mansion will greatly increase. He stood up and walked towards the door. Just then, the Grand Elder came out. They looked at each other and saw the cautiousness in each other's eyes. This time, nobody would believe that they were going to attend a banquet. Whoever thought that would be an idiot? Back then, when Elder Yun from the Stellar Pavilion invited them, he explained the purpose of the Netherworld Empire's visit. Basically, they were here to invite them to attend the banquet. As for the content of the banquet, they believed that it wouldn't be anything good. Let's go. They nodded and walked towards the center of the Gathering Dragon City. In the center of the Gathering Dragon City, there was a huge palace that was decorated with gold and jade. It could accommodate many people. However, those who were invited to stay in the palace were few and far between. This caused many third-grade powers to look for inns to stay in. On the contrary, there were many houses in the city for them to stay in. This treatment was simply too bad. The Netherworld Empire was too arrogant. They invited them to attend the banquet, but they didn't prepare a place for them to stay. They even had to look for inns to stay in. Although with their cultivation level, they could just find a place to meditate, the sect still wanted to save face. If they couldn't even afford a place to stay, how could they talk about being strong? Soon, they arrived at the entrance of the city. There were 2 core condensation guards on both sides of the gate. Only those who had an invitation could enter. Invitation. The guards signaled them to stop and hand over the invitation. The Great Elder took out the invitation and handed it over. After a little inspection, the guard nodded and said, "Go in." They immediately let them in. As for the appearance of Tianyun and the others, they didn't even look at them. As long as they had the invitation, they could come in. It didn't matter if they were beggars, they could come in. Of course, if they had the guts to come in, they must be tired of living. After entering, they saw that the palace was heavily guarded. There were several patrolling troops walking back and forth. From time to time, they would look at them. The leader of the patrolling troops was a spirit core cultivator, and the guards were all core condensation cultivators. The gap between them was not small. In a third-grade power, a spirit core cultivator was an elder. But here, they were the leader of an army. Of course, their ranks weren't low, but compared to those elders who were living a comfortable life, these patrolling envoys obviously had more things to do. To become an elder, one had to be at least a core transformation cultivator. But generally, they were called ministers or generals. Tianyun heard that the minister who came this time had a high position. His cultivation had reached the 5th or 6th level of core transformation, which was really heaven-defying. Just his cultivation alone was enough to suppress the patriarchs of a group of rank 3 powers, so how could he possibly dare to speak carelessly? Under the guidance of the guards, they quickly entered the innermost palace. Inside, there were already many cultivators talking. Many forces were divided into groups. Tianyun looked up to see if there were other acquaintances here. Just as he looked up, he immediately saw 2 familiar figures. They were the 2 women he met in Devil Cloud Island. He remembered their names were Yu Shiqian and Zhao Yu. They both came to this banquet. He knew that these 2 people must be the disciples of a big sect. Now that they were invited, they must be the disciples of a big sect. But he didn't wear the 100 transformation mask, so they didn't recognize him. Which sect is that? Tianyun pointed to Yu Shiqian's direction. Oh, that's the female disciple of White Lotus Mansion. They are very famous in the Heavenly Boundary Continent. They mainly accept female disciples. It's the same as your Heavenly Jade sect. The Great Elder explained. Chapter 231. White Lotus Mansion, as a big force, was naturally invited, and Yu Shiqian was one of the representatives. Most of the palace lords present on the scene were invited by the Netherworld Empire, and none of the palace lords dared to come in person. The Netherworld Empire didn't need to send an emperor, but they must send a mansion lord, unless there was no mansion lord. So Tianyun glanced around. It can be said that there is a group of strong cultivators here. There are quite a lot of them, all of them are at the spirit core stage. There were many core condensation cultivators. If they could gather together to form a sect, it would definitely be an invincible sect in Heavenly Boundary Continent. But there was already a sect that was at this level, and that was the Empire. The Empire had a lot of spirit core cultivators, dozens of them, and the number of core condensation cultivators was even more amazing. Otherwise, they wouldn't be called an empire. The Empire could control or sweep the entire Heavenly Border Continent. This was their strength. Honored guestie, you're here? A familiar voice came from the side. Tianyun turned his head and saw Elder Yun. He was a bit surprised to see Tianyun. He was about to say that it was a pity that Tianyun didn't come. There were so many strong cultivators here. If Tianyun could get to know them, it would be beneficial for him. He didn't expect that Tianyun was already here, and he even came with other forces. Elder Yun, you're already here. Yi Tianyun smiled. He was quite embarrassed about the Star Pavilion. After all, he didn't even spend a penny on them. Yes, we just arrived. Pavilion Lord Li just said that it's a pity that you didn't come. Elder Yun looked at the Great Elder and said, I didn't expect you to come with Heaven's Top Mansion. Honored guest Yi, have you already joined Heaven's Top Mansion? Yes, I have joined Heaven's Top Mansion. Please take care of me, Elder Yun. Yi Tianyun didn't hide it. Since he chose to stand with Heaven's Top Mansion, he must be with Heaven's Top Mansion. Then I shall congratulate guest Yi. Elder Yun congratulated Yi Tianyun, but his eyes flashed with disappointment. He felt that with Yi Tianyun's level, joining Heaven's Top Mansion is a waste. Heaven's Top Mansion is getting worse and worse. They can't provide much resources. How can Elder Yun not be disappointed? However, he didn't say anything. After all, he wasn't familiar with Yi Tianyun. At this time, a familiar figure appeared here, which made Yi Tianyun feel a little surprised. The person who came was not a big shot, but Zhang Bin, who had been beaten by him before. This was a minor character, an inconspicuous minor character. He was surprised to see him here. Greetings, Great Elder. Zhang Bin came over and greeted the Great Elder. He didn't show any politeness, completely arrogant attitude. When he saw Yi Tianyun, his eyes were full of disdain. Hey, I didn't expect you to come here to join in the fun. It seems that Heaven's Top Mansion values you very much. Zhang Bin naturally didn't know that Yi Tianyun was the mansion lord. This matter was not announced to the public, so many people didn't know that he was the real mansion lord. Only the deacons who were trusted inside knew that Yi Tianyun was the mansion lord. At first, these deacons felt that it was unbelievable, but after understanding the situation, they were shocked. Perhaps his prestige was not enough, but at least his cultivation level was enough. I remember you are Heavenly Rune Pavilion's Zhang Bin. Why are you here? The Great Elder frowned. He knew the disciples of Heavenly Rune Pavilion, and he could accurately call out their names. Especially Zhang Bin, whose rank was quite high, so he naturally knew some of them. Why can't I be here? Zhang Bin arrogantly said, but this is the last time I will call you Great Elder. From now on, I am a member of Divine Rune Mansion. I'm sorry, but many of us have already joined Divine Rune Mansion and will no longer stay in Heaven's Top Mansion. What? The Great Elder's face was gloomy to the extreme. Do you know what the punishment for betraying the sect is? Of course, if you betray the sect, your cultivation will be abolished. Zhang Bin smiled. What is there to abolish in Heaven's Top Mansion? It's just some rubbish divine runes and some rubbish martial arts. It's really boring to practice. Divine Rune Mansion has the capital. You guys are too weak. The Great Elder glared at Zhang Bin and wanted to hit him. Zhang Bin was not afraid at all. Divine Rune Mansion is behind me, and I am now a member of Divine Rune Mansion. If you hit me, it is equivalent to slapping Divine Rune Mansion's face. You have to think about it carefully. If it causes a relationship between the two, slap. A slap had already arrived, slapping Zhang Bin's face fiercely, sending him flying. The crisp sound attracted many people's attention. They didn't expect that someone would dare to hit someone in the banquet. The person who hit him was none other than Yi Tianyun. No matter how garbage I am, I'm still better than a garbage scum like you. Yi Tianyun shook his hand, and his eyes were cold. Zhang Bin, who had been sent flying, had lost many of his teeth. His mouth was full of blood. It was a tragic sight. You dare to hit me? Zhang Bin was still able to get up. Originally, Tianyun was merciful, so of course, he could get up. What happened? At this time, a young man came over. His clothes were embroidered with the words, Divine Rune Mansion, clearly indicating that he is a member of Divine Rune Mansion. Xiang, Deacon Xiang. He hit me, Heaven's Top Mansion hit me. When Zhang Bin saw Xiang Deacon coming over, he pointed at Yi Tianyun and said coldly as if he saw his savior. Deacon Xiang looked over, and when he knew that it was Heaven's Top Mansion, his face immediately sank, and said, Heaven's Top Mansion, I didn't expect that you would dare to hit our people. Yi Tianyun didn't expect that these people didn't know that he killed Divine Rune Mansion's people. Obviously, they came in batches. Deacon Xiang's group obviously brought Zhang Bin and the others to see the world, So they didn't gather with Lin Feng, so they didn't know what happened. I hid our Heaven's Top Mansion's disciple, I don't know what's wrong with that. Yi Tianyun said indifferently. He is now one of Divine Rune Mansion's people, you know, Divine Rune Mansion. Deacon Xiang emphasized the 3 words, Divine Rune Mansion, and said with contempt, their talent is not bad, it's a waste to let them stay in Heaven's Top Mansion. From today onwards, they are our people, if you have the ability to touch them, it's the same as touching our Divine Rune Mansion. Zhang Bin was very arrogant at the side. His face was full of mockery. Having a backer gave him confidence. Yes, I am already one of Divine Rune Mansion's people, it has nothing to do with your Heaven's Top Mansion. You have to apologize for what you did before, at least give me 2 slaps, otherwise this matter will not end. Boom! This time, it was a kick. Before they could react, Zhang Bin was kicked out in front of Deacon Xiang. Sect has its own rules, if you want to take away this trash, you can. You can take him away now. Yi Tianyun made a gesture. Chapter 232. There was only one consequence for betraying the sect, and that was to get rid of his cultivation. This was the most severe punishment. Even if they don't want his life, they must get rid of his cultivation. Otherwise, what does he think of the sect as? Unless he got permission not to get rid of his cultivation, otherwise, once he betrays the sect, he will get rid of his cultivation. This is the lightest punishment. If it's serious, he will die. Yi Tianyun didn't kill Zhang Bin, he just crippled his cultivation. This will undoubtedly make the other party remember this mistake more deeply. Heaven's Top Mansion's level might be too low, but they can't forgive their betrayal. As the Mansion Lord of Heaven's Top Mansion, he has to personally clean up the mess. My cultivation, my cultivation? Zhang Bin screamed, Deacon Xiang, he destroyed my cultivation, I'm a useless person now, his cultivation can be restored, but it will take many years. Unless he has a heaven-defying pill to aid him in his cultivation, otherwise, he will be no different from a useless person. How old would he be if he were to cultivate back to his original cultivation? At that time, his future would not be bright, let alone becoming an expert. Everyone looked at Heaven's Top Mansion with shock in their eyes. They didn't expect that Heaven's Top Mansion would dare to make a move against Divine Rune Mansion. They thought that Heaven's Top Mansion would swallow their anger and be humiliated, but they actually dared to make a move. Yu Shiqian looked at Yi Tianyun's figure and frowned. She thought of something, but she couldn't think of anything. Sister, what's wrong? Zhao Yu asked. It's nothing, I always feel that the boy is a bit familiar. Yu Shiqian shook her head and said, maybe I'm mistaken, sister, are you interested in him? Zhao Yu looked at Yi Tianyun from head to toe and smiled. This boy is so young, but he has such courage. I don't know what kind of trouble he will provoke. The other party is Divine Rune Mansion. This is too reckless. The elders of Heaven's Top Mansion didn't stop him. This is really a big trouble. Yu Shiqian nodded as well. She felt that Yi Tianyun was being too reckless. It was good to be young, but it would bring him a lot of trouble. Heaven's Top Mansion, it seems like you're tired of living. Deacon Xiang said coldly, you want to go against our Divine Rune Mansion? Elder of Heaven's Top Mansion, are you instructing your disciple to act? The first elder didn't say anything. Yi Tianyun was their manor head, not their disciple. If the manor head were to make a move, the elders would follow suit. Deacon Xiang glanced at the great elder and the others. When he realized that they were all staring at him coldly without saying a word, he coldly said, it seems like you all have instigated your disciples to make a move. I'll give you a chance now. Cripple your hands and your cultivation. When the Manor Lord and the others arrive, I'll pretend that this never happened. Pa! A slap came over. Deacon Xiang didn't see clearly what was going on. The heavy slap had already hit his face and sent him flying. He slid back a long distance and finally hit a stone pillar. Many of his teeth were knocked out. Everyone was dumbfounded when they saw this scene. They thought that Heaven's Top Mansion would bow their heads and apologize, or the great elder would come forward to say something. However, he didn't. Instead, he slapped Deacon Xiang across the face and sent him flying. They didn't instruct me to do it, I just wanted to do it. Yi Tianyun said indifferently. Also, I don't like you. You're trying to poach someone else's disciple, yet you're acting so righteous. Everyone was speechless. Isn't this young man too arrogant? He even dared to hit the deacon of heaven's top mansion. At such a young age, his cultivation is no less than a core condensation cultivator. This made them think highly of him. When did heaven's top mansion recruit such a talented disciple? But in their hearts, they sighed. If the divine rune mansion's mansion lord comes, then heaven's top mansion will be finished. If it was the previous heaven's top mansion, they wouldn't think much of it. But now that heaven's top mansion has fallen to a second-grade force, they still dare to do such a thing. Deacon Xiang jumped up in anger and was about to beat him up, but when he looked up, his eyes were filled with surprise. Mansion Lord, you're here? This heaven's top mansion is too arrogant. How dare they cripple our disciple and beat me? Deacon Xiang shouted. Nan Fingyun's eyes turned cold. He led a group of people to stand in front of Yi Tianyun. Yi Tianyun has seen one of them before. It's the spirit core cultivator who was sent flying by Yi Tianyun's kick. It seems that he came with the Mansion Lord. The Mansion Lord of Divine Rune Mansion is Nan Fengyun. His cultivation is not bad. He's at 3rd level of core transformation, which is a lot stronger than Qingshen Mansion. The Mansion Lord of Qingshen Mansion is not a core transformation cultivator, only an old ancestor is. The Mansion Lord of Divine Rune Mansion not only has a high cultivation, but he's also a 5th-grade Divine Rune Master. Which one of you killed my personal disciple? Nan Fengyun looked at them coldly. His aura suddenly pressed down on them. The great elder's face changed. The Mansion Lord of Divine Rune Mansion came in person. He's a core transformation cultivator, an existence that they can only look up to. Just his aura alone was enough to suppress them, but Yi Tianyun's expression was indifferent. Killed his personal disciple? Everyone was shocked. They thought that Nan Fengyun is here to get back at them, but it turns out that he's here for revenge. They thought that beating up Deacon Xiang was bad enough. They didn't expect that Nan Fengyun would kill Nan Fengyun's personal disciple. Deacon Xiang was dumbfounded. Zhang Bin was also dumbfounded. No wonder Nan Fengyun is not afraid of the Divine Rune Mansion. He even dared to kill the Mansion Lord's personal disciple. Why would he be afraid of the Divine Rune Mansion? At this time, the spirit core cultivator next to Nan Fengyun pointed at him and said in an unpleasant voice, "He killed him." His voice sounded like a broken drum. No wonder he doesn't talk much. His voice is very unpleasant to hear. In an instant, everyone's eyes were focused on Yi Tianyun, and they were stunned once again. This young man is so daring, he even dared to kill Nan Fengyun's direct disciple. He can't do anything he wants. The most important thing is that the elders behind them didn't come out to stop Nan Fengyun. You killed him? Nan Fengyun looked at him coldly. A fierce light flashed in his eyes. Fine, I'll pay with my life. After he finished speaking, he reached out his hand and grabbed Yi Tianyun's shoulder. He wasn't in a hurry to kill Yi Tianyun. He just wanted to torture him in front of everyone. At this time, a sudden shout came from above. Stop! Nan Fengyun's hand stopped. He turned his head and looked up. The one who called for them to stop was none other than the Netherworld Empire's guard. Lord Chungfeng is about to arrive. Why are you all making such a ruckus? This is the Gathering Dragon City, not your Divine Rune Mansion. The guard said coldly. Nan Fengyun withdrew his hand and looked at Yi Tianyun coldly. You're lucky. I'll let you live for now. After this is over, you'll die. No, you're lucky. Yi Tianyun said indifferently. Chapter 233. Yi Tianyun's arrogance made a lot of people speechless. Even if the Mansion Lord personally came, he didn't show any fear. Instead, he became even more arrogant. But it's not Yi Tianyun's arrogance, it's Divine Rune Mansion's bullying. It's as if Yi Tianyun likes to cause trouble. If it wasn't for Lin Feng being overbearing, Yi Tianyun wouldn't even bother to hit Lin Feng. Yi Tianyun wanted to keep a low profile, but since he was forced to take action, then don't blame him. Many people shook their heads. This Heaven's Top Mansion is finished. Not only will this young man die, but Heaven's Top Mansion will also have to pay a huge price. If they don't compensate, how can they appease Divine Rune Mansion's anger? Good boy, you've got guts. Nan Fengyun stared at him coldly, and then looked at the great elder of Heaven's top mansion. You're quite confident. It seems that you have a backer? The great elder smiled bitterly. Since when did they have a backer? Now they just listen to Yi Tianyun's instructions. Mansion Lord Nan, you don't need to know this. The great elder's expression didn't change. He just followed Yi Tianyun's instructions. Very good. Nan Fengyun said coldly, when this matter is over, I will personally visit Heaven's top mansion and see what kind of backer you have. Zhao Yu on the side was also paying attention to this scene. Sister, that young man is too arrogant. Isn't he afraid of Mansion Lord Nan? Zhao Yu's beautiful eyes were full of shock. If it was her, she wouldn't dare to do such a thing. Maybe he got some instructions or he really has a backer. Yu Shiqian shook her head. She doesn't need to think too much about the result. Heaven's top mansion is finished. Star Pavilion's side was even more shocked. Originally, they wanted to protect Yi Tianyun, but now it seems that they don't dare to come out. Yi Tianyun said that if they come out, it's equivalent to going against Divine Rune Mansion. They won't do such a thing. Pavilion Masterly, this guest elder Yun shook his head. It wasn't that they were too cold, but that Yi Tianyun had killed the other party's direct disciple. This wasn't a matter that they could suppress with just a few words. I didn't expect honored guest Yi to be a troublemaker. Li Tianlong smiled bitterly. He originally wanted to come forward to settle the matter regarding Deacon Xiang. He could still suppress this matter, but he really couldn't make a decision regarding the death of a pro-disciple. The Starry Sky Pavilion had always maintained a neutral stance. It would be fine if the Starry Sky Pavilion simply quelled their anger. However, the matter of the Starry Sky Pavilion killing a personal disciple was not something that could be easily quelled. If he didn't handle it well, the Star Pavilion would become Yi Tianyun's backer. He couldn't afford to bear the consequences. At this time, a handsome middle-aged man slowly walked out of the palace. He was the minister of the Netherworld Empire, Cheng Feng. The person in the upper echelon was full of vigor and might without being angry. As soon as he appeared, a powerful pressure was released in all directions, giving them a great sense of pressure. After he walked out of the palace, he glanced around and slightly nodded his head. He was very satisfied with this arrangement. Greetings, Lord Qing. At this time, the people in the front began to greet Cheng Feng respectfully. The rest of the forces also followed suit. Whether they were willing or not, they had to greet Cheng Feng. Otherwise, it would be disrespectful to the Netherworld Empire. Even the palace lords had to be respectful in front of Cheng Feng. This was the gap between the two forces. Even the ordinary guards of the Netherworld Empire couldn't be killed at will. As the saying goes, one must look at the owner before beating a dog. The consequences of provoking the Netherworld Empire would be tragic. Well, I'm very satisfied that all the palace lords have come. Cheng Feng's expression was indifferent. He looked at them and slowly explained, this time, I invited a total of 15 forces. One of them was very indiscreet and even injured our emissary. Before the banquet started, we completely suppressed it. In the future, this sect will no longer exist. That's why I came a little late. Cheng Feng's tone was a little flat as he narrated the shocking news. A third-grade force was destroyed just like that? The Netherworld Empire only invited third-grade forces. That's why there were only 15 third-grade forces in the entire heavenly boundary continent. Looking at the overall scale, there were indeed 14 large and small sections. The spacious hall could easily accommodate all of them. This reminded Yi Tianyun of the injured eagle when he just entered the city gate. It must be the result of the third-grade force's resistance. In the end, the outcome was simple and brutal. They were completely destroyed. This time, I invited all of you here to discuss a matter with you. This matter is an order from the Great Emperor. He specifically emphasized the word, Great Emperor. He wanted to make it clear that if anyone disobeyed the order from the Great Emperor, the consequences would be unimaginable. Everyone's heart jumped and they began to get nervous. They didn't know what was going to happen. Oh yes, the timing is very coincidental. Today is my birthday. Cheng Feng smiled and said, "What a coincidence, I almost forgot about it." Everyone was surprised. Why did he suddenly mention his birthday? Wasn't he going to talk about business? At this time, someone quickly came forward and said, "Congratulations, Lord Cheng. This is 100-year-old spirit ginseng that we have carefully prepared for Lord Cheng. Eating it will help you replenish your blood and qi, extend your life, and stabilize your cultivation." One of the palace lords immediately reacted and handed 100-year spirit ginseng to Cheng Feng. "Well, how can I accept this? But this 100-year spirit ginseng is not bad. I like it a lot." Cheng Feng immediately beamed with joy and glanced at the prefecture lord. The prefecture lord was even more ingratiating. It would be great if Cheng Feng could take care of him. At this time, many people realized that Cheng Feng was really thick-skinned. Originally, the Netherworld Emperor had asked him to announce this matter, but he suddenly mentioned his birthday. He simply wanted to take this opportunity to receive gifts. But they couldn't refuse. How could they prepare gifts? Everything was too sudden. But it couldn't be said that it was too sudden. It could only be said that Cheng Feng couldn't tell them that today was his birthday. This was too much. He just wanted to use the Netherworld Emperor's words to celebrate his birthday. It was perfect. Fortunately, someone immediately reacted and gave a gift. This made many palace lords envious. This meant that they would get more attention. "Master Cheng, this is a high-grade soul tool. It contains the blood of a dragon. When it attacks, it can release a dragon's might to intimidate the enemy. Master Cheng, this is a 300-year jade spirit grass that we carefully prepared. It can..." Chapter 234. Some of the sects didn't have a good impression of the Netherworld Empire from the start, so now that the Netherworld Empire wanted to send gifts to them, they couldn't help but feel disgusted. But even if they don't like it, they still have to send gifts, otherwise they will be the unlucky ones. After all, the other party is a minister of the Netherworld Empire, and he has a lot of power in the Netherworld Empire. If they disobeyed, they would disappear from the heavenly boundary continent, just like one of the previous forces. "Mansion Lord, what should we do? We don't have many good things." The great elder was embarrassed. Although the Heaven's Top Mansion was not poor, they don't have many precious things. Looking at their gifts, each one was stronger than the other. At the very least, they were all high-grade soul tools. Otherwise, the other party would not even be interested in them. The problem is that they don't have any high-grade soul tools, which is embarrassing. They have a few mid-grade soul tools, but they don't have any. "It's okay, I still have some stock." He did have high-grade soul tools. He killed those spirit core cultivators before, and they dropped some high-grade soul tools. Some of them were sold and some were not. He kept all the good ones, and when he returns to Heavenly Jade Sect, he will give them to them. The Great Elder and the others were startled, which made them embarrassed. Although Tianyun is their mansion lord, but now they need his help, which is really embarrassing. Just thinking about it, our mansion lord is in this state, and we still have to send gifts to the Netherworld Empire. I hate myself for being so weak and insignificant. The Great Elder felt his heart bleeding. This is equivalent to being slapped in the face several times, and he still has to smile. "Don't worry, I will make him pay a little price." Tianyun looked at Cheng Feng and sneered. "Mansion Lord, don't be impulsive." The Great Elder was shocked. He knew that Tianyun is bold, but this is a minister of the Netherworld Empire. If he really makes a move, the Heaven's Top Mansion will be destroyed. "Don't worry, I won't be so impulsive." Tianyun is not a fool, he knows who his opponent is. If he was alone, he wouldn't be afraid of trouble, but with Heaven's Top Mansion behind him, he can't do anything. Before they could say anything else, Nen Fengyun walked up to them and handed over a jade box. "Lord Cheng, this is a high-grade soul armament, and one with a 5th-grade divine rune inscribed on it. I'm sure you'll be satisfied with it." As he spoke, he opened the jade box. A translucent longsword appeared before his eyes, causing Cheng Feng's eyes to brighten. Taking it out, he nodded his head in satisfaction. What an excellent soul weapon. The effect of this 5th-grade divine imprint is to increase damage, right? That's right, it can increase the damage effect by 2 layers. I guarantee you'll be satisfied. Nan Fengyun smiled. In reality, he was feeling the pinch in his heart. This was his sword, but he had given it to Cheng Feng. How could he not feel the pinch? The main reason was that it was too sudden. Who would normally prepare a gift? Therefore, many of them brought along their weapons or the spiritual medicine that they were preparing to use. On the surface, he was smiling, but in his heart, he was very unhappy. Not bad. I've heard that the Divine Rune Manor's divine runes are quite good, and it looks like they're quite good. Cheng Feng smiled. There's a spirit realm cultivator in the capital recently. If you have time, I'd like to introduce you to him. A spirit realm cultivator. Nan Fengyun's eyes lit up. Thank you, Lord Cheng. Now it was worth it. Many people looked at Nan Fengyun with envy. The Divine Rune Manor lacked divine runes the most, and the spirit realm had a very high level of proficiency in this field. If they could exchange some divine runes with the spirit realm cultivator, they might even be able to obtain a rare divine rune. Nan Fengyun turned to look at Yi Tianyun with a smile. Isn't it Heaven's Top Mansion's turn to send a gift? I wonder what kind of gift Heaven's Top Mansion will send. I've heard that Heaven's Top Mansion has been very tight lately. Many of their students have left Heaven's Top Mansion because of the lack of resources. TSK. If the resources are too poor, they won't be able to retain their hearts. Nan Fengyun naturally won't let go of this opportunity to ridicule Yi Tianyun. Yi Tianyun knows that his sin value is high enough to attract the hatred of these idiots. Yi Tianyun's expression was indifferent. He lifted his foot and walked forward. Everyone's eyes were focused on him. They were wondering why he personally sent the gift instead of the Great Elder. The mansion lord didn't come, which was already very impolite, let alone a disciple who came with gifts. Many people thought that Heaven's Top Mansion was finished. As Cheng Feng, how could he not know the situation of Heaven's Top Mansion? The mansion lord was tortured half to death. Heaven's Top Mansion is very bold. Nan Fengyun saw that it was Yi Tianyun who sent the gift. Nan Fengyun said coldly, "The mansion lord didn't come, it's disrespectful to Lord Cheng. Now even the Great Elder is not willing to send the gift. What the hell is the meaning of this?" Nan Fengyun was like Cheng Feng's lackey, and she started to complain on his behalf. Cheng Feng's face was also ugly. He knew the situation of Heaven's Top Mansion. But when he saw Yi Tianyun send the gift, he was very dissatisfied. "I don't mean anything, I am the mansion lord, is there a problem?" Yi Tianyun said indifferently. He said it openly on this occasion. Everyone was shocked, including the Great Elder. They didn't expect that Yi Tianyun would say it in this place. "What? You are the mansion lord?" Nan Fengyun was stunned. He immediately looked at the Great Elder and asked, "Elder of Heaven's Top Mansion, is he your mansion lord?" "Yes, he is our mansion lord," the Great Elder said firmly. He didn't feel that there was anything to be ashamed of. After confirming it, these words exploded like a clap of thunder. Everyone was shocked. No wonder the Great Elder didn't come forward. It turns out that this young man in front of them is the mansion lord of Heaven's Top Mansion. Nan Fengyun laughed. "Heaven's Top Mansion, oh Heaven's Top Mansion. You've really fallen. Even a fool like him is your Heaven's Top Mansion. What does that have to do with you?" Yi Tianyun ignored Nan Fengyun. This made Nan Fengyun angry. He wanted to make a move, but Cheng Feng was right in front of him. He walked up to Cheng Feng and took out a high-grade soul armament. Cold air began to radiate from his body as he explained, "This is the Glacial Divine Sword, a high-grade soul armament. Please accept it, Lord Cheng." The sword didn't look bad, but the fact that the Heaven's Top Mansion could take out a high-grade soul armament meant that the Heaven's Top Mansion wasn't as bad as the rumors said. "Not bad, not bad. This weapon is not bad at all compared to the gift Nan Fengyun gave me. I'll accept it." Cheng Feng nodded. "Becoming a mansion lord at such a young age. Looks like you have a bright future ahead of you." "Thank you for the compliment, Lord Cheng." Yi Tianyun clasped his hands together with a smile. With a flick of his wrist, a beam of light shot into Cheng Feng's body. No one saw it, not even Cheng Feng himself. The thing he flicked out wasn't anything good. It was the bad luck divine pill from a long time ago. He didn't know what to do with it, but he didn't know how effective it would be. Chapter 235. Most of them weren't interested in the treasures that Yi Tianyun offered, but they were more interested in the fact that Yi Tianyun was the mansion lord. No wonder Yi Tianyun was standing in front of the crowd and speaking on behalf of Heaven's top mansion. They didn't expect that he was actually the mansion lord of Heaven's top mansion. This was something that no one expected. Yu Shiqian and the others were dumbfounded. How could he become the mansion lord at such a young age? Many people suspected that Yi Tianyun was the mansion lord's son, or did he have such a powerful background? Otherwise, how could he become the mansion lord at such a young age? In some places, the mansion lord's position was held by the Grand Elder, but it was true that the mansion lord didn't have much power. When he grew up and became familiar with the situation, he would be able to grasp the real power. But from the previous situation, it is obvious that Yi Tianyun has the real power, and he has the absolute right to speak, which makes them unable to figure out what is going on. They didn't even think about Yi Tianyun's strength. How strong could he be at such a young age? It's not their fault, they can't see Tianyun's strength. As long as he doesn't release any aura, they really can't tell. Unless they reach out and probe Yi Tianyun's body, they really can't detect his strength. No wonder he came with Heaven's top mansion. I didn't expect him to be the mansion lord. Li Tianlong's eyes flashed with interest. But most of them were just interested. Most of them had the same thought as Nan Fengyun. If he became the mansion lord of Heaven's top mansion at such a young age, it could only mean that Heaven's top mansion was declining. Yi Tianyun just smiled and didn't care about other people's eyes. Soon, he returned to his area and waited for the bad luck divine pill's effect to activate. Nan Fengyun looked at the ice frost divine sword that Yi Tianyun gave him. This was a slap in his face. Before he said that Yi Tianyun wouldn't have any treasures. He didn't expect that Yi Tianyun would really take it out. Lord Cheng, my weapon is much stronger than this. After all, my weapon has a 5th grade divine rune, while his doesn't even have one. Nan Fengyun sneered, how about this? Why don't we have some fun beforehand? Let's see how strong the new mansion lord of Heaven's top mansion is. At the same time, we can test the power of their weapons. Cheng Feng smiled and said, this is a good proposal. I also want to see the new mansion lord of Heaven's top mansion. To be able to ascend to the position of manor head at such a young age, it was likely that his abilities were not low. Then it's decided. We'll treat it as a show to liven things up. Manor Lord Yi, do you have any objections? Below the stage, Yi Tianyun's expression was calm. This Nan Fengyun was trying to set him up, humiliate him, and use this opportunity to slap his face. No problem. Yi Tianyun smiled lightly. Since Manor Lord Yi has no objections, we can begin now. Nan Fengyun smiled and said, I don't want to take advantage of you. You can't choose someone who is too old. Today, I brought an excellent disciple with me. Let's see how strong the new mansion lord is. What he said was very interesting. If Yi Tianyun lost, it means that the new mansion lord of Heaven's top mansion can also be their disciple. Zheng Wu, you're up. Nan Fengyun said to his disciple. At the same time, he threw his weapon over to Yi Tianyun's side. Then, a young man jumped up and caught the long sword. He slowly descended from the air, looking very elegant. Then, he came to the designated area. With his hands behind his back, his white robe fluttered in the wind. He looked at Yi Tianyun with disdain. His cultivation is not low. He has reached 6th level core condensation. Considering his age, he can be regarded as a very good disciple. But this young man is a few years older than Yi Tianyun. This made many sects frown. You can't choose someone who is too old? This is simply too old. They are not on the same level at all. But among the people brought by Nan Fengyun, he is indeed the youngest one. Mansion Lord Yi, this is your weapon. Catch it. Nan Fengyun took the ice frost divine sword that Yi Tianyun gave to him and threw it at Yi Tianyun. Like a sharp arrow, it pierced towards Yi Tianyun's side. Nan Fengyun obviously wanted to trick Yi Tianyun. If Yi Tianyun can't catch it, then he can't blame Yi Tianyun. Yi Tianyun lightly stepped on his feet and flew up. He stretched out his hand and lightly flicked the sword blade. The ice divine sword turned a circle in the air, and he easily grabbed the hilt of the sword, and then slowly fell down. Yi Tianyun didn't feel any difficulty at all. Can we start now? Yi Tianyun's move made many people applaud. It seems that he has some skills. Humph. Nanfingyun's eyes flickered and immediately said to Cheng Feng, "Swords have no eyes on the stage. If there is blood, please don't take it to heart." "It's okay. I know that swords have no eyes. If I don't have any courage, how can I fight on the battlefield?" Cheng Feng laughed and didn't care at all. This meant that he was authorized to attack at will, even killing someone was not a problem. If that's the case, then Jing Wu, show your true strength and show Cheng Feng your strength. Nan Fengyun squinted his eyes and smiled. He immediately looked at Yi Tianyun and said, "Mansion Lord Yi, please show your strength too. If you lose, it won't look good. Zheng Wu is just an ordinary disciple of our divine rune mansion." The last sentence is equivalent to saying that if a dignified mansion lord loses to an ordinary disciple, it means that heaven's top mansion is rotten. If I lose, then I won't be qualified to be the mansion lord of heaven's top mansion. Yi Tianyun said lightly. As soon as these words came out, many people were shocked. This was really a bit of determination. But many people shook their heads. Yi Tianyun looked too young. His cultivation should not be high. It was a pity that he fell into Nanfingyun's trap. Only the great elder's eyes flickered. Dealing with Zheng Wu was not difficult at all. If he lost, he wouldn't be qualified to be the mansion lord. You're ambitious. Then let me see if you have the qualifications to be the mansion lord. Nanfingyun's eyes flashed with a cold light. Following this order, Zheng Wu wielded his sword and shot forward like a sharp ray of light, leaving a trail of cold light in the air. The fifth-grade divine inscriptions on the long sword flickered incessantly, releasing a dazzling light. In an instant, the power of the long sword had increased by 2 levels. This was the power of the fifth-grade divine rune. The higher the cultivation, the more powerful it would be. Judging from Zheng Wu's cultivation, he could already fight above his cultivation. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.